So there I was, crawling back to my old college apartment like a divorced cockroach, getting ready to move in because my marriage had exactly 2 days left on the clock. I'm cleaning out the wardrobe, old t-shirts, yellowed books, a box of condoms so expired they probably qualified as historical artifacts, when the bottom drawer jams. I yank it hard, the whole thing flies out, and stuff goes everywhere. A black USB drive rolls to my feet. I don't even remember owning this thing. It's some ancient Kingston model, looks like it survived the dinosaur era. I plug it in anyway, because what else am I doing with my life? One file inside. Wallet, 4735.txt. I open it. A wall of random letters and numbers. Some kind of key. And at the bottom, one line. 4735 of them. Don't sell too early. My heart does a backflip. 4735 of what? I copy the key into a crypto wallet app, hands already shaking, and the number loads. 4,735 Bitcoin. 300 million US dollars and change. Over 2 billion yuan. I sat there like a statue. The only sound was my laptop fan going brrrr and October sunlight sneaking through the curtain like it wanted to read the number 2. I reached for my water glass. My hand was trembling so bad I knocked it off the table. It shattered. I didn't even look down. Then it hit me, Sonny. My buddy from high school. He was the internet cafe attendant who always saved me a computer. One night we were drinking and watching a game. Some street fight broke out nearby, and he came running saying he needed money to skip town. I pulled 10,000 yuan from my card and handed it over, no questions. He shoved this USB drive at me and said, "If I don't pay you back within a year, this covers the debt." He died in a car crash that same night. I was scared of getting involved, so I never chased the debt. The USB drive got tossed in a drawer and sat there for 15 years. 10,000 yuan. 15 years. 2 billion. My whole body started shaking like a phone on vibrate. Then my actual phone rang. Mom. I took 2 deep breaths and picked up. Ong, why did you send money again this month? Her voice was tiny and careful, like she was afraid of being a burden. Huilin will think you're dragging her down. It's not good for your family. I wanted to scream, I'm a billionaire now, but I swallowed it. She's got a bad heart. Had major surgery years ago. One shock, and I'd be planning a funeral instead of a celebration. Mom, it's fine. I've got it all figured out. Don't worry, but is your spending enough? Your dad says the construction site might pay an extra 2,000 next month. Stop worrying about me. Just take care of yourselves. After I hung up, I sat on that dusty sofa, and the last 7 years replayed in my head like a sad movie. Dad's construction materials company got set up, scammed, sabotaged, whatever you want to call it. 27 million yuan in debt. Tax authorities swooped in at the same time. Overnight, we went from rich family to roadkill. I'd just gotten married. I suggested selling this apartment to pay the debt. Mom and my wife both said no. We scraped together 23 million from mortgaging everything we owned, borrowed the last 4 million from relatives. I went from rich kid to workhorse. At 26, I got a sales job at an import-export company. After work, I drove DD rideshare, did designated driving gigs. Total monthly income, about 16,000 yuan. 8,000 to my wife for household expenses. 6,000 to mom for the debt. I kept 2,000. 2,000 yuan in a city like Binchang gets you food and subway rides. That's it. 7 years. I didn't buy a single new piece of clothing. Quit smoking. Stopped going to dinners with friends. All to save money. Then 1 month ago, my wife Wen Huilin put a divorce agreement on the table. I can't take it anymore. Even if you won't think about me, think about Xiaodian. You want our son carrying your debt his whole life? She said this with her head down. Didn't look at me once. Voice flat as a robot reading the weather forecast. I sat in silence for 10 minutes, then signed. She gets the new apartment we're still paying mortgage on. The old 3-bedroom goes to our son Chen Ang. 30-day cooling period. 2 days left. I walk back to my laptop. Screen still glowing. That beautiful, ridiculous number still sitting there like it was waiting for me to believe it. I grabbed my phone. My thumb hovered over Huilin's number. I wanted to call her and say, "Babe, I'm rich. We don't need to divorce. The debt is nothing." And then I stopped. 7 years she stuck it out. Why is she leaving now? I slowly put the phone down, and suddenly everything that had been blurry for 7 years snapped into focus. Like putting on glasses for the first time. Huilin had been getting more and more impatient with me this past month. She wouldn't look me in the eye when talking. Always turned away from me when texting on WeChat. My son was acting weird too. Distant, going through the motions, calling me Dad, like he was checking a box on a homework sheet. I used to blame it all on the debt pressure making everyone crazy. But now, with 2 billion yuan of courage pumping through my veins, I finally let myself think the ugly thoughts. I pocketed my phone, grabbed my car keys, and walked out without looking back. The Bitcoin needs to be cashed out. And whatever my wife's real reason for this divorce is, I'm going to find out. October wind was cold as I tore down Riverside Road in my beat-up Magotan with the windows down, wind blasting my face. And for the first time in 7 years my brain felt completely awake. 7 years of bowing, grinding, swallowing my pride. Time for a whole new way of living. Money is a man's courage. Right now, I've got courage coming out of my ears. But courage needs to come with brains. So I told myself, stay cool. At a red light, I called my best friend Yu Liang. Liang, give me a good lawyer. What happened? He sounded surprised. We go way back, grew up together, bare butt in the sandbox type of friendship. When my family went bankrupt, he secretly wired me a card with 2 million on it behind his wife's back. I didn't take it, but I never forgot. Asset stuff. That's it. I stared at the red light and just grunted. Hung up. Stepped on the gas. The Magotan groaned and merged into traffic. 2 billion yuan. 100% pre-marriage personal property. As long as I don't mix this money with any marital funds, don't put it under my name carelessly, nobody can touch a single cent. Now I just need to figure out 2 things. 1. How to safely turn this crypto into real, spendable cash. 2. For the last 7 goddamn years, exactly who have I been slaving away for? 5:30, school pickup time. I parked my Magotan across the street from Binching 3rd Experimental Elementary and looked over at the stationery shop where my son Zetian usually waits for me. And then I froze. My kid was smiling. Not the polite, "Oh hi dad," smile he gives me these days. A real, genuine, whole face lighting up smile. Eyes crinkled, mouth wide open, practically glowing like a little lantern. And he was beaming at some guy squatting in front of him. Dark gray jacket, early 30s, holding 2 gift boxes of toys. The guy was whispering something to my son, too far for me to hear. But then I heard my son loud and clear. Dad, you promised the amusement park next week. No takebacks, Dad. That word hit me like a knife to the chest. The guy laughed and ruffled Zetian's hair. Did your mom say it's okay? I stood there like someone had poured cement into my shoes. The ground felt soft, like I was sinking into mud. All the noise around me, parents chatting, kids screaming, car horns, it all went muffled and far away, like my head was underwater. I watched this man take my son's hand and walk him to a black Audi Q7. Zetian climbed in like he'd done it 1,000 times. Door closed. Engine started. Taillights flashed twice in the sunset, turned the corner, and disappeared. I didn't chase them. I just memorized the license plate. My hands were in my pockets, and I was pressing my thumb into my finger joint so hard the bone ached. That was the only thing keeping me from losing it right there on the sidewalk. Today I learned something. Suspecting your wife is cheating and actually seeing it with your own eyes. There's an entire level of hell between those 2 things. I got back in the car and sat there, fighting every urge to punch the steering wheel through the dashboard. Anger, humiliation, hatred. I shoved them all down, one by one, until my face was completely blank. I waited until the crowd cleared, then started the car. My phone rang. Huilin. I didn't pick up. It rang again. Ignored. 3rd time. Halfway through, I finally answered. Why don't you ever pick up? She complained, voice perfectly normal, not a trace of anything suspicious. What should Xiaodian eat tonight? I cracked the window to let some cold air in. Whatever's around. How about braised pork ribs? Xiaodian loves those. I'll be home a bit late. Work stuff. He loves them, so let's make them. When I said that, my left hand was gripping the steering wheel, so tight every vein on the back of my hand was popping out like worms under skin. After I hung up, I laughed at a red light. A tiny, quiet laugh I didn't even notice myself making. Braised pork ribs. Yeah, the kid does love those. I remember the first time Zetian ate the ribs I cooked, grease all over his little face, saying, "Dads are better than moms." I was happy the whole night. Well, F came me sideways. Got home, went straight to the kitchen, grabbed the cleaver, and started hacking ribs. Bang, bang, bang. like each piece of pork personally offended me. When the smell started filling the apartment, Zetian poked his head out of his room. Dad, is dinner ready? I'm starving. I heard him call me, Dad, and instantly replayed the dad from an hour ago at the school gate. Same word. Two different men. One gets toys. One gets to chop ribs. Guess which one's the idiot? I put the food on the table, turned around, and locked myself in the bathroom. The guy in the mirror looked like garbage. Dark circles, 2-day stubble, wearing a windbreaker so faded it was basically white. 7 years ago, I wasn't like this. 7 years ago, I wore Zegna, Burberry, Gucci. I used cologne. I wore nice watches. I'd spend 5 minutes fixing my hair before walking out the door. I stared at this wrecked version of myself for a long time. Then I opened the cabinet, pulled out a sealed bag, carefully removed the brush head from Zetien's electric toothbrush, put in a fresh one for him, and sealed the old brush head in the bag. Tucked it into my jacket pocket. My hands were steady. Surgeon steady. Executioner steady. Tomorrow, I'm visiting a paternity testing center. At dinner, Huilin came home, and Zetian scrambled over to take her bag and bring her slippers like she was the Queen of England. Kid never once did that for me. I sat there with my bowl, watched the whole performance, said nothing. Huilin seemed to sense something was off. She sat down and looked at me. What's wrong? Something happened? I shoved a rib in my mouth and mumbled through the meat. Nothing. Just thinking about how I'll miss you guys after the divorce. Feeling a bit sad, her eyebrow twitched. Barely. A micro flinch most people would miss. I didn't miss it. Wasn't this your choice? She steadied her voice. Sacrifice the small family to protect the big picture. Just eat. Food's getting cold. That line I dropped wasn't random. It was bait. And that flash of panic on her face? Caught it. She's scared. Scared I might change my mind about the divorce. Well, honey, if you're scared, then I'm not scared at all. With 2 billion yuan backing me up, a whole lot of people and things just stopped matching. And let's be real, I was never a saint. After dinner, Huilin volunteered to wash dishes. In 7 years of marriage, the number of times she's been in that kitchen I can count on one hand with fingers to spare. I sat on the couch and watched her back. This woman climbed into my bed when I was at my lowest, lived 7 ordinary years with me. I never loved her, but the kid was everything. That's why I gave them both apartments in the divorce. But now I was thinking about something else, the math. She wrote that divorce agreement. The terms were very fair. Houses go to her and the kid. Debt goes to me. Custody goes to her. Child support goes to me. At the time I signed without blinking. Looking back now, every single clause was surgically designed around my weak spots. So 7 years ago on that night, was she calculating then too? Her phone buzzed in the kitchen. She glanced at the screen, instantly hit mute, peeked through the glass door at me on the couch. Saw I wasn't reacting. Then she ducked her head and started typing on WeChat. I saw everything. Didn't move a muscle. I picked up my own phone and texted the number Yu Liang gave me. Attorney Shin? Yu Liang referred me. Can we meet tomorrow? Reply came fast. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Then I opened my phone and started researching private investigators. I need evidence. Lots of it. Around 10, the mother-son duo slipped off to their rooms without a word. I washed up, went to bed, and lay there planning. Step 1. Keep Huilin calm. Don't divorce. Prevent any existing assets from being divided. Step 2. Find out who drives that Audi Q7. And wait for the paternity test results. Early morning. Jingyuan Forensic Testing Center. This dumpy old building hides behind benching third people's hospital like it's embarrassed to exist. Electric scooters parked out front, 2 middle-aged guys squatting on the steps, chain-smoking and radiating pure misery. My people. I parked my beat-up Magotan at the curb and walked straight in. The receptionist was a woman in her 40s, blasting short videos on her phone at full volume. Didn't even look up when the door opened. What do you need? Paternity test. Now she looked up. Gave me the full scan. Faded windbreaker, 2-day stubble, dark circles so deep they looked like bruises. I could literally see her mentally filing me under. Another poor bastard who got cheated on. She's probably got a stamp for it. Personal or legal? Personal. Rush job, 6 hours, double the fee. She shoved a form across the counter. I filled it out, swiped my card, took my receipt. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed. Huilin. Teacherly called. Zetian's not feeling well. Pick him up at lunch. I stared at this message for 5 seconds. My mouth did something. Not sure if it was a smile or a twitch. I typed back. Okay. Before heading to school, I pulled over and went into a shop to buy cigarettes. 7 years since I quit. The first drag made me cough like a dying engine, but that nicotine hit cleared my head just a little. No matter how much I love that kid, 6 years of raising him. If the results say what I think they'll say, I have to face it. Stubbed out the cigarette. Started the car. At the school gate, Zetienne climbed in looking sick and droopy, mumbled one flat, "Dad," and collapsed into the passenger seat like a deflating balloon. Again with the zero temperature, "Dad." That word had all the warmth of a frozen fish. Then I noticed a new toy stuffed in the side pocket of his backpack. Still in the plastic wrap. Wonder who that's from. I watched his face in the rearview mirror the whole drive home. He looked more and more like Huelin. The eyebrows, the nose, the curve of the chin. I searched and searched for something, anything that looked like me. Nothing. Suspicion is a seed. Once you plant it, it grows whether you water it or not. I buried my feelings, got the kids settled at home, changed into something slightly less homeless looking, and headed out. Attorney Shin Pian-ran's office was on the 23rd floor of the financial center, floor-to-ceiling windows with a river view. A single square meter here costs more than my monthly salary. I walked in, and she was on the phone. She waved me to sit. "Director Wong, I can't take that case. Find someone else." Click. Done. Cold-blooded efficiency. I sized her up. Under 30, dark gray suit jacket, low ponytail, light makeup, strong features. Not the jaw-dropping type, but the kind of face that gets better the longer you look at it. She sized me up. Faded but clean clothes, exhausted face. Her eyes showed no judgment, but also zero warmth. "Mr. Chen?" She leaned back. "Chief, you mentioned you have an asset dispute." I put the folder on her desk. "Not a dispute. I have an asset that needs to be cashed out. I need professional legal support to make sure the process is legal and discreet." "How much?" 2 billion yuan. Her fingers froze on the armrest. If Yu Liang hadn't personally called her, she probably would have shown me the door. She stared into my eyes for 3 seconds, confirmed I wasn't joking, took a deep breath, and reached for the folder. USB screenshots, Bitcoin market value printouts, my handwritten explanation. She went through everything for several minutes without asking a single question. When she looked up again, her expression had completely changed. She wasn't looking at a client anymore. She was looking at a puzzle. "Mr. Chun, you understand I can't do this alone. We'll need specialists in Hong Kong. And you'll need 3 things: an offshore account, a Hong Kong shell company, and a legitimate explanation for the source of funds. Can you handle it?" "Yes," she paused to think. "But I have conditions. My fee is 2.5% of the total amount cashed out. Non-negotiable. Everything goes through me." I did the math in my head. 50 million yuan. Roughly in line with what I'd researched. Dumping 4,735 Bitcoin would absolutely trigger every alarm on the blockchain, at exchanges, and with regulators. A regular person trying to do this alone would be asking to get arrested. You need a professional OTC team, a lawyer, and tax specialists running the whole operation. Otherwise, you're dead. Deal. But I have conditions too. First, whatever outside help you bring in, I don't pay extra. That comes out of your cut. Second, the escrow must be through a licensed Hong Kong custodial institution with multi-signature controls. Third, absolute secrecy. The corner of her mouth twitched upward. She pulled a retainer agreement from her drawer and slid it across. While I signed, I noticed her right hand trembling slightly under the desk. She was trying hard to control it, but I caught it. 2 billion makes everyone shake. I didn't call her out on it. After all the paperwork and ID documents were sorted, she walked me to the door. I turned back. "Attorney Shun, how long before I see money?" She didn't seem surprised. With this much cash on the line, who wouldn't be impatient? 5 days of work, and the first batch should hit your Hong Kong account. But before that, you need to make a trip to Hong Kong. The sooner the better. The private key will be split into 3 parts. You keep 1, the licensed custodial institution holds 2. Any Bitcoin transfer requires your written and digital authorization, and the first time has to be done in person. I nodded and left. From the law office, I headed to another part of town. Old Commercial District. Last night, I'd looked up a private investigator with an office here. I walked into an elevator-less apartment building, climbed 4 flights of stairs past walls plastered with sketchy ads, drain cleaning, old appliance buyback, fake certificates. Knocked on a door. The guy who opened it looked like a college professor, not a PI. Round face, early 30s, clean cut, soft-spoken. The place was simple but tidy. A few file folders and a laptop on the coffee table. Absolutely nothing screaming. Detective agency. Brother Chen? I'm Jiang Shan. I sat on his couch and placed a slip of paper on the coffee table. On it, license plate BIN A7D 461, black Audi Q7. The owner of this car. I want everything on him. Marital situation? Jiang Shan looked at the paper, then at my face. 8 years in the business. He could read a client's situation at a glance. This guy in front of him was 100% not here about a business dispute. I said nothing, just nodded. Also add one more person. My wife, Wen Huilin. Her bank cards, phone records, and her relationship with the owner of that car. Whatever you can find, I want all of it. Jiang Shan was quiet for 2 seconds, then held up 2 fingers. 2,000 deposit up front. I'll have a preliminary report by today. The rest will price by workload. I swiped my credit card, stood up to leave. Brother Chun, he called after me. I paused, didn't turn around. I've been doing this for 8 years. Let me give you some free advice. Sometimes what you find out hurts worse than not knowing. You sure about this? If I wasn't sure, I wouldn't be here. I walked out. A gust of cold wind smacked me in the face, the kind that drills straight into your bones. I tightened my jacket and felt a tiny sliver of warmth. Check the time. Almost 4. The paternity results should be ready. My phone buzzed. An email. I opened it with shaking hands, eyes locked on the 2 most important characters on the page like laser beams. Excluded. I got back in the car and opened the email again. That word, excluded, punched me in the face a second time. 2 seconds. That's all it took for my whole world to rewrite itself. First second, I remembered the afternoon Zetian was born. The nurse brought him over, and I was grinning so wide my face almost split in half. Second, I remembered his first, dada, all mushy and slurred, the cutest sound in the universe. I squeezed my eyes shut, opened them, looked at the phone again. The conclusion was right there at the top, bolded, bigger font than everything else, basically screaming at me. Based on DNA genetic marker analysis, Chen Ang is excluded as the biological father of Chen Zetian. I put the phone down, both hands on the steering wheel. The car was dead silent, glass blocking out all the street noise, so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat thudding like a war drum. 32 years alive. I've been through the family going bankrupt, debt collectors kicking down our door, being so broke I couldn't afford lunch. But nothing has ever felt like this. You know that old saying about a man so enraged he'd spill blood within 5 steps? Yeah, I get it now. I breathed. Slow. Steady. Pushed down that hot wave of blood rushing to my skull. I've got 2 billion yuan in my hands. I can design whatever life I want from here on out. Is it worth throwing that away on rage? I shook my head and reframed the situation. You know what? I basically slept with someone else's wife for 7 years. Free of charge. If you look at it that way, I'm the winner here. Okay, everything resets to 0. Starting today, we're settling all the scores. Today's the last day of the divorce cooling period. And this divorce? It's not happening, because it's not going down like this. Without hard evidence, Huilin could claim she didn't know the kid wasn't mine. And with how the law works, she'd definitely walk away with a chunk of my current assets. 2 apartments already transferred to her and the kid, plus all the money I've poured into supporting them over the years. That's at least 6 million yuan. So here's the plan. I need to nail her for marriage fraud and fraudulent child rearing. The apartments, the bride price, every yuan I spent on her and the kid for 7 years, all of it comes back to me. And I still need to find out. 7 years ago, did she target me? Did she deliberately find a sucker to raise another man's baby? In this moment, I made a sacred vow. I will achieve the legendary accomplishment of having gotten Wen Huilin's services completely free for 7 years. Also, divorce is no longer the main event. The main event is watching her crumble, piece by piece. It was getting dark when I pushed open the front door. No Didi driving tonight. Actually, no Didi driving ever again. My days as a workhorse are over. In the living room, Huilin was lounging on the couch watching TV, sliced fruit on the coffee table, like life was just peachy. Zetian's door was shut, video game sounds leaking out. Back already? She glanced at me. Didn't drive tonight. I changed my shoes, sat on the couch, picked up the teacup, took a sip, and set it down gently. The glass bottom clinked against the table. One clean, crisp sound. We're not going to the registration office tomorrow. Huilin whipped her head around. What? No divorce. 3 words. Quiet, but heavy as concrete. The only sound in the room was the TV. And then I got to watch her face go through the most spectacular transformation sequence I've ever seen. Confusion, shock, anger, something I can only describe as her face trying to eat itself. She shot off the couch like she'd been launched from a catapult, biting down so hard her lipstick smeared into a crack line. No divorce? You want to drag me and the kid down with you? Her voice could have shattered glass. Her eyeballs were practically doing a jailbreak from their sockets. I watched this performance and felt a strange, delicious satisfaction wash over me. 2 apartments worth nearly 5 million yuan. She could practically taste them. And now they just sprouted wings and flew away. Her reaction was even more entertaining than I'd imagined. Drag you down? How could I? I leaned back into the couch, voice perfectly casual. It's because I love you too that I can't bear to watch you go out there and suffer alone. Love? You think you won't drag us down? I don't want to wake up every morning knowing my husband is millions in debt. Full hysteria mode. Volume cranked past maximum. I spread my hands. I knew my calmness was torturing her. Because the more one person loses control, the calmer the other person stays. The more it looks like watching a one-woman show. I never asked you to pay a single yuan of that debt. The household money comes in every month without fail. You're this desperate to divorce. I paused, locked eyes with her. Could there be another reason? A flash of panic in her eyes. Gone in a blink, but I saw it. What other reason could I have? What family lives like this? All your money goes straight into your family's bottomless pit. I've had enough. I don't love you anymore. Is that not allowed? I sank deeper into the couch and looked up at her. Not with anger. With the quiet, steady gaze of someone studying an insect under glass. This is what having a backbone feels like. When you've got 2 billion yuan of confidence, looking at someone you don't care about anymore is like watching a clown perform. You don't love me anymore? That's your problem. Go solve it yourself. I'm not some unlovable monster that nobody could ever love. I stood up, straightened my collar, and delivered my closing statement. I haven't done anything wrong. Why should I get divorced? Huilin's mouth hung open. No words came out. Her eyes were pure shock. She looked into my eyes and for the first time realized there was no dodging, no guilt, no trace of the 7 years of humble doormat she was used to seeing. What she saw instead was a kind of calm she'd never encountered before. The kind that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. You. She swallowed hard. What exactly are you trying to do? I didn't answer. I turned around and saw Zetian standing in his doorway. He'd seen the whole thing. His little face was a cocktail of surprise and fear. I bent down and ruffled his hair. Hey buddy, it's nothing. Your mom's just having a tantrum. My voice was so gentle it gave Huilin chills. I walked past both of them, went into the bedroom, and closed the door. Sat on the edge of the bed, opened the paternity report on my phone, and read the conclusion one more time. Different from this afternoon. This time, looking at those words, I wasn't as cold anymore. 6 years. I fed him, changed his diapers, carried him to the ER at 3 a.m., poured my entire heart out for this kid. And he's not mine. But he's still on my household registration. Legally, he is my son. An old saying popped into my head. Spoiling a child is the same as destroying a child. I don't know if that's true, but that's fine. I've got plenty of time and plenty of energy to test that theory. Why torture yourself when you can torture other people instead? Lying in bed, I realized I had a practical problem. I was broke. The Bitcoin wouldn't come through for days. I couldn't exactly ask friends for a loan. The PI's work would stall without cash. As the famous Hong Kong economist Mr. Zhang Ziqiang once said, without money, nothing is possible. But Huilin definitely had money. Before the wedding, I gave her 388,000 in bride price. For 7 years, I gave her 8,000 a month for household expenses. She also earns close to 10,000 herself. Mortgage is covered by the housing fund. Household costs aren't high. My estimate? She's sitting on at least 1 million yuan. Getting it out of her won't be easy. But there's always a way. Then I remembered something else. Before the family went bankrupt, my parents bought 1 million yuan insurance policy for their future grandchild. Well, since Zetian isn't my bloodline, that policy gets canceled tomorrow. Step 3 was taking shape. Investigate everything about Mr. Audi Q7. Collect evidence. Build an airtight case. and recover every single yuan down to the last cent. After thinking for a while, my eyes drifted to the Notes app icon on my phone. I hesitated, tapped it open. Inside was a very old photo. In that photo, Su Qingwan was 17. Meanwhile, out on the balcony, Huilin had pulled out her phone and opened WeChat. What I didn't know was that out on the balcony, Huilin was already texting her boyfriend. Yuan Dong, he just said no divorce. Do you think he found out something? The reply came fast. No way. It's been years and nothing happened. He's different today. Completely different. She was chewing her lip, glancing back at my closed bedroom door. You know he used to be a rich kid, arrogant and ruthless. If he finds out, I'm scared he'll kill me. Half a minute later, Audi Boy replied, just keep him calm. He's still paying every month. Or maybe send Xiaodian to feel him out. Huilin stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard for a long time. All these years you haven't taken care of me and the kid. Now you're free. Don't you want us to live together? You're always in my heart. My divorce was the first step, right? Don't rush. We'll be together openly soon. Right now is critical. Don't let him notice anything. She didn't get the answer she wanted. Her face went dark, a flash of resentment in her eyes. Men, not a single good one in the bunch. She typed, pocketed her phone, and went back to the living room. Meanwhile, in my room, I was much more interested in the message from Jiang Shan, my PI. Plate traced. Black Audi Q7, registered to 2 Yuan Dong, 32, recently divorced, owns a renovation company. Address, Champagne Garden, Building 12, Unit 704, Binching New District. I'll stake the place out tomorrow. So now I had the full picture. Huilin had her exit strategy lined up. The workhorse, that's me, had outlived his usefulness. Wait, no? I still had one use left. She could keep using Zetian to squeeze every last drop of sweat and blood out of me for the rest of my life. I couldn't even imagine how miserable my future would have been if I never found out. And the kid knows. He knows he's not mine. He and Huilin have been hiding it from me together. Can't tame a stray dog? Fine. Then I'll raise him into a proper ungrateful wolf, aimed right at them. With my mindset upgraded, I dropped all the emotional baggage, rolled over, and fell asleep. Best sleep I've had in years. Woke up around 9 the next morning. House was quiet. Zetian was at school. First thing I did. Went straight into the master bedroom, dug through the nightstand, and found that insurance policy, the one my parents bought before the bankruptcy, beneficiary, Chen Zetian. 1 million yuan. Time to cancel that bad boy. Why should I not spend this money on myself? Took a shower. Shaved. Fixed myself up. Looked in the mirror and thought, yeah, it's time for a new lifestyle. Walked out the door and went straight to a Cantonese restaurant for a 200 yuan breakfast. Dim sum the works. Here's a life philosophy I just invented. Being nice to other people is basically outsourcing your happiness and hoping they return the favor. But what if you just cut out the middleman and be nice to yourself? No middleman markup. Direct to consumer. Genius. I was deeply moved by my own wisdom. Next stop, insurance company. After negotiating, I got back 600,000. Lost 400,000 on the deal. Brutal. But don't worry, when the divorce math happens, this goes straight on Huilin's tab. The kid isn't mine, so why should my money pay for his policy? Didn't dwell on it. Left the insurance office and drove straight to Shantong Used Cars. Handed over my Magotan keys. Got 55,000. Then I walked next door to the BMW dealership and slapped down a 300,000 yuan down payment on an X5. Remaining balance, 480,000 over 5 years. Monthly payment, 8,000 yuan. That's exactly what I used to give Huilin every month. Poetic, isn't it? The workhorse payment just became the BMW payment. Sitting in that driver's seat, I remembered my first car was also a BMW X5. Upgraded to a Range Rover after that. Both got seized when the family went bankrupt. I didn't go crazy and buy a Bentley or anything. Low-key is the move right now. In this society, rich people without connections get eaten alive. Remember that milk brand CEO? That tech billionaire? All got $0 purchased by the system. Hell, that's exactly what happened to MY family. Hit the mall next. Bought some new clothes. For the first time in 7 years, I felt like a human being instead of a machine. Then I marched into my office and slapped down a resignation letter. My boss didn't even try hard to stop me. Just sighed and said, think it over, and approved it. 1 month notice, then I'm free. 2 billion yuan on deck. This garbage job? Whoever wants it can have it. Besides, I've been feeding Huilan and her kid for 7 years. Now that I'm unemployed, shouldn't SHE be supporting me? Only fair. Had lunch, then got a call from attorney Chen. Mr. Chen, come by the office when you have time. There's progress. I suppressed a flutter of excitement, hopped in my brand new X5, and cruised toward the financial center. This time I showed up looking like a different person. Casual blazer, clean shave, no styling effort, but the whole vibe had flipped. The defeated zombie was gone, replaced by something confident and composed. Shin Ran was noticeably more courteous. Had me sit, told her assistant to bring coffee. I waved it off, asked for plain hot water instead. Once the assistant left, she sat across from me and pushed over a thick stack of documents. The Hong Kong shell company is ready. Xinhentai Capital, registered at 50 million Hong Kong dollars. Straight to business, as always. But I caught her sneaking glances at me with something extra in her eyes. Curiosity. She was clearly surprised by the transformation and wondering what the story was. But she's a lawyer. She knows better than to pry into a client's personal life. So she stuck to work. I flipped through the documents for about 15 minutes, then looked up with a smile. Didn't expect it this fast. I don't like dragging things out. She pulled the papers back slightly and pointed. 2 issues remaining. First, to maximize returns, the Bitcoin needs to be cashed out in 10 batches, 4 to 500 coins each, over 2 months. This avoids market volatility and regulatory red flags. Second, and this is the tricky part, once the money comes back, how do you explain where it came from? She fixed those clear eyes on me, like she was testing me. I was impressed by how organized she was. Everything laid out clean and logical. I met her gaze calmly. Round-trip investment. Her eyebrow went up. Corner of her mouth twitched. Genuinely surprised. Dress up a company in Hong Kong foreign capital clothing. I leaned back into the couch. The Hong Kong company enters the mainland as a foreign investor, registers a foreign invested enterprise, then wires money in as technical consulting fees or equity transfer payments. 2 seconds of silence. Then she shrugged. You really did your homework. I just owed people money for a few years, I said casually. Debtors learn to do math fast. She actually cracked a smile. Small, barely there, but it softened her whole face. I could tell she was thinking, this guy has a fortune that could buy a small country, but there's zero flashiness. He's young, but carries himself like someone who's been through wars. What exactly happened to this man? She let the thought pass, closed the folder, and pulled another agreement from her drawer. Then let's sign. If everything goes smoothly, the first batch, approximately 25 million US dollars, hits the Hong Kong account in 5 days. No more talking. I read through every page carefully, then signed my name with one heavy stroke. The stroke that flips an entire life upside down. Left the law office, checked the time, not even 3 yet. Shot Yu Liang a text. You at work? Be there in 30. He replied instantly. Come, Linshui District Public Security Bureau. I parked, walked up to the 3rd floor like I owned the place, knocked, and stuck my head in. Yo, Liang. Yu Liang was behind his desk writing reports. He looked up, threw his pen down, and snapped. Watch your mouth. This is a government building. It's Chief Yu. I ignored him, walked straight to the couch, and started making myself tea. We've known each other since the diaper days. After high school, he went to police academy. I went to college in Binching. He clawed his way from beat cop to deputy chief of the district bureau. I clawed my way from rich kid to pack mule. He came around from his desk and tossed me a cigarette. What brings you here today? I caught it, lit up, took a deep pull, let the smoke cycle through my lungs, and blew it out slow. I'd spent the entire drive over rehearsing how to say this. Now that I was sitting on his couch, the words wouldn't come. I'm getting divorced. Liang had just sat down. He froze. Still because of the family debt? No wonder you needed a lawyer. Want me to pull some money together? 3 million is tough, but 2 million I can manage. I shook my head, stubbed the cigarette into the ashtray, and started grinding it. Kept grinding. My knuckles went white. The cigarette, but turned to powder. I was still grinding. Bro. The casual look vanished from Liang's face. The last time I called him, bro, was 7 years ago, the night my family went bankrupt, crouching on the side of a road calling him with a shaking voice. Zetian isn't mine. The cigarette remains in the ashtray, disintegrated completely. The air in the office seemed to drain out. Dead silent. Hello. Neither of us moved. He stared at me. I stared at the pile of ash. You got tested? His voice dropped half an octave. Yeah? Excluded. He inhaled sharply, stood up, and walked to the window. Street view of Linshui District, late October, afternoon sun starting to lean west. A patrol car below pulled out with lights flashing, but no siren. He stood with his back to me for about 10 seconds, then turned around. Does your wife know that you know? No. What's your plan? I finally looked up. Divorce, obviously. But the 2 apartments are already in her name. I need them back. Every yuan I gave her these 7 years, I want it all back. My voice was completely flat when I said this. So flat that Liang stared at me for several seconds. He recognized that tone. After the bankruptcy 7 years ago, this is exactly how I talked. I pack every emotion into a box and nail it shut. You have enough evidence? Private paternity test, done. The man's info, got it. I paused. 2 Yuan Dong, 32, runs a renovation company, recently divorced. PI is on him. Liang came back to the couch, pulled a cigarette from the pack on the table, tapped it twice, lit up. More silence. His cigarette was half gone before he spoke again. When Huilan's situation, bigamy is going to be hard to prove. You'd need specific evidence she was living with this guy as husband and wife. Neighbor testimony, property records, that kind of stuff. Another drag. But you can sue her in civil court for fraudulent child rearing. Claim reimbursement of child support plus emotional damages. Win that case properly, and she's looking at paying back hundreds of thousands, maybe over $1 million. So you need 3 things: a verified or notarized paternity result, evidence that Huilan committed fraud, and records of every cent you spent raising that kid. I listened and felt the ground solidify under my feet. Liang's been a cop for 10 years. His legal read on things is 100 times more reliable than anything I could Google. I need one more favor. Say it. Chat records. Her and that guy. Liang flicked his ash. If needed, I'll figure something out. Cyber Division can pull server backups. If the account hasn't been deleted, we can recover messages going back 3 years. I exhaled and sank into the couch. He picked up the teapot and brewed a fresh pot. Steam curled from the clay spout. Tea fragrance drifting through the room. He poured me a cup, poured himself one. We both held our cups. Neither of us drank. Oh, by the way, Liang suddenly changed the subject. Some high school friends came through recently. Had a little reunion. Someone brought up Su Qingwan. My finger froze on the rim of the cup. Su Qingwan. That name floated up from the deepest part of my memory, carrying the chill of an early winter when I was 24. In front of the government housing complex. That day she wasn't wearing her usual ponytail. Her hair was down, and she was standing under a red maple tree waiting for me, tears all over her face. I remember after I broke up with her, she threw herself at me, grabbed on, and kissed me like the world was ending. I could almost still taste her on my lips, still smell her in the air. Then the company went bankrupt, and I got trapped into marrying someone else, and all those memories got buried layer by layer, shoved to the very bottom, covered in dust. Ancient history. Doesn't matter anymore. My eyes dimmed. I drained the tea in one gulp and stood up. Gotta go. Need to go show Zetienne how heavy a father's love really is. Liang knows me better than anyone. He stood up too, voice dead serious. Don't do anything stupid. If you get in trouble, I can't cover for you. You think I'd break the law? I'm trying to peacefully lie flat for the rest of my life. I cracked a smile and pulled open the door. I've got 2 billion yuan. Only a complete moron would commit a crime. Huilan and Audi Boy aren't worth getting my hands dirty. Drove the X5 toward 3rd Experimental Elementary. Linshui District is big, but the station to the school was only 10 minutes. I parked near the entrance and got out. Then I looked up at the row of tutoring centers packed along the street. I walked into every single one, eyes scanning the award photos in the windows, wearing the warm smile of the world's best father. Pushed open the door to the fencing academy, grabbed a brochure, went next door to the robotics class, filled out a registration form. The cello school's receptionist was a perky young woman who enthusiastically added me on WeChat and said they offered trial lessons. I stood on the sidewalk looking at the stack of colorful flyers in my hand and laughed. Learning new things is always good. Can't let a kid fall behind at the starting line, right? Zetienne is 6 years old. Prime learning age. Well-rounded development is the way to go. Cello for emotional cultivation. Robotics for logical thinking. Fencing for physical fitness. Comprehensive, holistic growth. This child's future is going to be spectacular. I folded the flyers neatly and tucked them in my pocket. Stood at the school gate waiting for Zetian when my phone buzzed. Message from Shunpian ran, tomorrow 9 a.m., direct flight to Hong Kong. Tickets booked. Don't forget your ID. One more day and the Bitcoin situation gets real. Once that first 25 million USD hits the account, a whole lot of things can finally begin. While waiting for Zetian to come out of school, my brain was running the numbers on those after-school programs like a financial calculator possessed by Satan. Fencing, 38,000 yuan per year. Equipment extra. Robotics, 28,000 per year. Competition gear extra. Cello, 22,000 per year. The actual cello? Also extra. Quick mental math and my mouth was already curling upward. About 100,000 total. 100,000. That's basically Huilan's entire annual salary. And this 100 grand isn't the finish line. It's the starting gun. Competition fees, grading exams, equipment upgrades, new cellos as the kid grows. Every single one of these is a bottomless money pit. When the bill lands on Huilan's face during the divorce settlement, every cent gets clawed back from her pocket. The more I spend now, the harder she chokes later. Best part? These are all the most expensive, most talent-dependent activities. And with Zetian's abilities, let's just say the kid isn't exactly Mozart meets Zorro. These classes will be about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Nearly a year of Huilan's salary, torched on 3 fancy hobbies that'll produce absolutely nothing. I could barely contain my excitement to see her reaction. I was still grinning when Zetian shuffled out of the school gate. He looked rough, pale face, dragging his feet, yesterday's cold still clinging to him like a needy ex. I didn't do the usual run over and ruffle his hair routine, just stood there and waved. He climbed into the car and immediately started touching everything, eyes going wide at the interior. His little fingers traced the wood trim on the door panel like he'd entered a spaceship. Dad, did you buy a new car? Yep. Made some money. So, are you still going to live at home? My hand froze on the seatbelt. I watched him in the rearview mirror, head down, finger twisting his backpack strap around and around in nervous little circles. That question does not come from the brain of a 6-year-old. Way too calculated. Who told you to ask that? Nobody. His voice shrank. Finger twisting intensified. Did mommy tell you to ask if I'm in a good mood today? The finger stopped dead. He glanced at the rearview mirror, then looked away. I laughed inside. Didn't answer his question. Just shifted into gear and released the handbrake. Dad made some money, so I've decided to invest in your development. Develop me into what? You want to be a hero, right? Like a swordsman. His eyes lit up like twin firecrackers. The kind that fights bad guys and saves people, so I signed you up for fencing. I nodded, keeping my voice warm and fatherly. Full white suit, face mask, real sword in your hand. Want to learn? Zetian erupted. He started slashing invisible enemies from the back seat, seatbelt yanking him back every time he lunged too far. His cold, gone, vaporized by pure excitement. I watched the birth of a little monster in my rearview mirror and felt genuinely entertained. Then I continued. Also robotics class. It's like building with blocks, except you'll make a transformer that actually moves. A transformer? That moves. He launched off his seat, got clotheslined by the seatbelt, bounced back. I want it. My mouth twitched upward again. In the mirror, Zetian's face was beet red, arms flailing everywhere like a tiny windmill. 6 years old. Here's fencing and thinks swordsman hero. Here's robotics and thinks transformers. He has no idea that these two things combined mean every weekend and every school break for the foreseeable future will be consumed by training. But Xiaodian, your mom might not agree. He froze mid-sword swing. Why not? These classes are pretty expensive. Your mom's always been careful with money. She might not want to spend that much. Panic mode activated. Then what do we do? Well, she's always wanted you to learn an instrument. I turned the steering wheel into the neighborhood entrance. If you add a cello class on top of it, she'll probably say yes. She'll think you're not just playing around. You actually want to learn something serious. Zetian thought about it with the solemn intensity of a 6-year-old making a life decision, then nodded firmly. Okay, I'll learn cello. You talk to mom for me. Deal. I parked, killed the engine, and turned to face him. But we keep this a secret for now. Why? We're going to give her a surprise. In a few days I'll tell her I'm taking you out to play, but actually we'll go to class. Once you learn your first song, You'll play it for her at home. Can you imagine the look on her face? Zetian nodded so hard I thought his head would fly off. Eyes blazing. Deal. Secret mission. Exactly. This is what we call a white lie. I smiled and got out of the car. He followed, backpack bouncing, still stabbing the air with an imaginary sword. Inside the apartment, he stood in the entryway changing shoes and said he still didn't feel great. Could he maybe do homework later? I looked at him. Sure. Go play on the iPad for a while. He froze like a deer in headlights. Then his face exploded with joy, and he hugged his backpack and sprinted to his room. Watching him run off so happy, I wore the most loving fatherly expression you've ever seen. He's not my kid. Whether he studies or not is exactly none of my business. I took off my jacket, walked past the dining table, and noticed several rings of grease stains on the surface. Huilan's historic dishwashing event last night apparently did not include wiping the table. I glanced at it. Didn't care. Tossed my jacket on the couch, put my feet up on the coffee table, and opened my phone. WeChat had a few messages, all from Jiang Shan, my PI. No text, just 4 photos. Photo 1, a man getting out of the Audi Q7. Photo 2, same man with his arm around a woman, walking out of an apartment building. Photo 3 and 4, close-up face shots of both of them. Timestamp in the corner. Today, 2:03 p.m. I stared at the photos for about 10 seconds, casually wondering whether I should catch them in the act someday and call the cops on them. Laughed it off. Saved all 4 photos to an encrypted album. Then I messaged Jiang Shan. Keep following. Dig into Tu Yuandong's company. Finances, shareholders, any external guarantees. Get me bedroom photos, and there's a 10,000 yuan bonus. Wired him 10 grand. He collected it instantly. Sent back a thumbs-up emoji. Around 6, the front door opened. Huilan came in, changed shoes, and instinctively glanced toward the kitchen. Lights off. Stove empty. Pots untouched. Nobody had cooked. Her brow furrowed. She was about to say something when her eyes landed on the shoe cabinet, where a brand-new car key sat, glinting under the hallway light. BMW logo. Blue and white circle. Impossible to miss. She stood there for several seconds, staring at the key, then at me on the couch scrolling videos, then back at the key. Her mouth opened, closed, words swallowed. I could practically hear the gears grinding in her skull. Yuandong told her to keep me calm. But where did this broke donkey get money for a BMW? She looked around for the old Magotan key. Couldn't find it. The suspicion on her face deepened. Was there money she didn't know about? She set her bag down, stone-faced, casually picked up the BMW key, and walked into the living room. I heard her footsteps, glanced sideways at her silhouette, and felt mildly curious that she hadn't started drama yet. Smiled to myself, turned back to my phone, and kept scrolling, making sure to like every pretty girl's video that popped up on my feed. Chen Ang, what's the deal with this car key? I didn't look up from my phone. Just bought it. Why? Where did you get the money? What kind of car? She sat down next to me on the couch and pushed my leg like she was nudging a vending machine that ate her coin. I moved my phone aside and actually looked at her. Just turned 30, still pretty, curvy, plenty of feminine charm. Then I understood why she was suddenly snuggling up to me, and I almost laughed out loud. Last night she was screaming about divorce like a fire alarm. Today she spots a BMW key and suddenly she's all warm and cuddly, trying to dig information out of me. Well, you want to go fishing? Gotta bait the hook. My family collected on some old debts. Mom wired me 300,000. I figured you've always wanted a nicer car, so I just went ahead and took out a loan. It's an X5. You like it, right? I casually slid my feet away from her while talking. Knowing this woman had just been doing horizontal gymnastics with Audi Boy at lunchtime made sitting near her feel like cuddling a dumpster. She didn't notice me moving. Her brain was too busy doing cartwheels over X5 and collected debts. See, she knows the math. My family owes a few million, sure. But people owe my family close to 10 million. If those debts are coming back in, I could practically see the dollar signs spinning in her eyeballs like a slot machine. The divorce conviction she had last night, suddenly looking a lot shakier, especially after Yuandong's lukewarm response. But she couldn't just fold that easy. She kept up the attack. You're not canceling the divorce just to make me help pay the car loan, are you? That's disgusting. What about Xiaoyan's future? I side-eyed her. Just tell me, you want the car or not? Otherwise, I'll sell it tomorrow and eat a 20 or 30,000 loss. Hearing the word Loss. Her face twisted in horror. That money should be saved for Xiaodian. How can you waste it like this? And why didn't you discuss this with me first? Don't ask. I'm the man of this house. Can't I make one small decision? Just answer the question. Car, yes or no? I waved my hand impatiently. She suddenly ran out of steam. It hit her that starting yesterday, I'd become a completely different person. Harder, more assertive. I never used to talk to her like this. It reminded her of when we first got together, back before my family collapsed. I was exactly like this back then. Her suspicion deepened. How much money did his family actually collect? After a pause, she scooted closer, sighed softly, and deployed the ultimate weapon, vulnerability. Chen Ang, are you hiding something from me? She switched on the doe eyes, lowered her voice to honey mode. We've been married 7 years. We raised a child together. Even if we have disagreements, Xiaodian is innocent. Are you angry that I brought up divorce? I wasn't trying to abandon you. We agreed we'd still co-parent, right? If you don't want a divorce, then let's not talk about it for now. If something's on your mind, just tell me. Okay. Her voice even cracked with a little tremor at the end. Oscar-worthy. I listened to this whole soup of sweet nothings and felt my worldview refresh in real time. Absolutely spectacular performance. And in that moment, I achieved enlightenment. When the cost of keeping a woman exceeds the price of a foot massage parlor, her moral standards are guaranteed to be lower than the masseuse's. Forget about what's on my mind. I'm afraid you wouldn't like hearing it. I dropped that little poison pill and stood up. Oh, I stopped after 2 steps and turned back. I didn't cook dinner. How about you make something? It's been ages since I've had your cooking. Then I walked straight to the balcony to smoke, completely ignoring the bizarre expression on her face. She was so busy chewing on my, afraid you wouldn't like hearing it, line that she didn't even notice I was smoking again, after 7 years of quitting. She sat there staring at my silhouette on the balcony, paranoia eating her alive. Does he know? What does he know? She got so tangled up in her own guilt that she completely forgot I'd told her to cook. When I finished my cigarette and came back in, she was still frozen on the couch like a loading screen. What? You see a ghost? Not cooking? Then nobody eats tonight. She snapped awake, looked up at my perfectly calm face, felt her chest tighten for no reason she could explain, and scrambled into the kitchen. Once the kitchen light flicked on, it probably hit her. Wait, what am I even guilty about? After she disappeared into the kitchen, a smirk crept across my face. I flopped back onto the couch like a king returning to his throne and started scrolling my phone again. Listening to the symphony of pots and pans clanging in the kitchen, I raised an eyebrow and thought, this is how life should be. Then I noticed a text from a number that looked weirdly familiar. It took me a second. Earlier this year, 2 buddies from back home visited Bincheng. We got drunk, ended up at a karaoke club, and I met this girl. I tapped the message open and felt an unexpected little flutter of warmth. Brother Chen, how have you been? Weather's getting cold, stay warm. Missing you. Xiao Yu from Junting Club. There were more messages like this. I scrolled up and found pages of them. Every few days, another little greeting. Consistent as clockwork. I know these messages aren't from the heart. She's working. It's her job. But still, humans are emotional creatures. And sometimes even fake attention hits different. This kind of emotional warmth delivery service? Way more comfortable than whatever the woman in the kitchen is serving. I'm so hungry. Wait, MOM. You're cooking? Zetian had been gaming so long he forgot about time. He stumbled out starving and nearly fell over when he saw Huilin in the kitchen. Almost ready. Just wait. She waved at him and kept working. Zetian said, oh, and turned to me. Dad, how come you're not cooking? I glanced at him. Internally. Yep, can't tame a stray dog. Am I just destined to be the household donkey? Gotta crank up the intensity. Face unchanged. Your mom said she's cooking from now on. She loves cooking. Zetian looked confused. He was pretty sure his mom's relationship with the kitchen was somewhere between hostile and restraining order. When I didn't give him any more attention, he wandered into the kitchen. The 2 of them started whispering together, heads close, too quiet for me to hear. Didn't care. When the food hit the table, I sat down and started eating with the total peace of mind of a man who has been liberated. Huilin was clearly in a bad mood. She couldn't figure out what was going on in my head, so she kept quiet through dinner. She was starting to realize that going head-to-head with the new me wasn't working anymore. Maybe she needed to change her approach. I couldn't care less what she was thinking. My mind was already on tomorrow's trip to Hong Kong. 2 billion yuan on the line. The foundation of lying flat for the rest of my life. Everything else can wait. Next morning, I drove the X5 to the airport before anyone in the house was awake. Grabbed a quick breakfast near the neighborhood and headed straight out. VIP lounge. Chen Ang was already there, dressed in a cream-white suit, faint dark circles under her eyes, but still looking sharp enough to cut glass. She nodded when she saw me. Mr. Chen, flights arranged. Hong Kong side will have someone picking us up. Full secrecy, no loose ends. I grunted and followed her onto the plane. Once we were airborne, she slid a stack of documents across my tray table. NDA and the custodial guarantee contract from the Hong Kong side. Zhang Qixiang is an old contact of mine, but rules are rules. I read through every line. Clean terms, clear responsibilities. She doesn't cut corners. Good. She could tell I wasn't in a chatty mood, so she didn't force conversation. Just put on an eye mask and passed out immediately. She'd been running between Binching and Hong Kong for 2 days straight on less than 6 hours of sleep. I didn't blame her. I was happy with the silence. 30,000 feet up, watching cities shrink and disappear beneath the clouds, my mind was perfectly still. A scam. 7 years as a pack mule. 6 years raising someone else's kid. Once this money lands, that's when I finally hold the cards. And from here on out, nobody makes me swallow anything ever again. 2.5 hours later, we touched down at Hong Kong International. Walked out of the terminal, and a black Alphard glided up right on cue. Wasn't surprised. If Chen Ang couldn't handle basic logistics, she had no business handling 2 billion. The Alphard cut through Central and stopped at a sleek new office tower. I paused at the glass door and caught my reflection, and for a split second, the face from 7 years ago, the day everything collapsed, overlapped with the one staring back at me. I breathed out and walked in. A secretary in a fitted office outfit led us to a corner office. Minimalist decor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking all of Victoria Harbor. A middle-aged man with gold-rimmed glasses stood up and extended his hand. His smile was corporate template, but warm enough to feel genuine. Mr. Chen, Attorney Shun, welcome, welcome. I'm Zhang Qixiang. I'll be handling your digital asset liquidation. Several other custodial staff stepped up and shook my hand one by one. Money really does make you the boss. I felt that deeply. I sat down and skipped every pleasantry in existence. I want this done fast. Is the first payment confirmed for 5 days? Absolutely, Mr. Chen. Attorney Shen and I haven't been idle these past 2 days. Zhang pushed a specialized offline device across the table and gestured. Enter the private key here. We'll release in batches. No crypto market shockwaves, no regulatory alarms. I nodded and typed in the private key. Dozens of characters. One by one, the screen loaded. Wallet address. Holdings. Current market value. All matching. All real. All blinding. Zhang glanced at the numbers. His pupils contracted for about half a second before he smoothed it over with professional composure. First batch, 400 coins. At current market price, after all fees, approximately 24.9 million US dollars will hit your account. The operation takes about 3 days. Funds will arrive in your new Hong Kong account within 4 days at the latest. The remaining 9 batches will settle roughly once a week. Just over 2 months to complete everything. I pressed my fingernail into my knuckle hard enough to feel pain. That was the only way I kept a straight face while the numbers were being read aloud. After confirming all the Bitcoin had transferred to the custodial escrow account, I leaned back and said, looking forward to a smooth partnership. Zhang confirmed on his end, then suggested dinner tonight, his treat, to celebrate. I waved it off. Plenty of time for meals later. Let's just get this done right. That's what matters for everyone. Zhang nodded with a smile. Off to the side, Chen Ang glanced at me, her breathing slightly uneven. Transactions worth hundreds of millions. Any normal person would be nervous, excited, sweaty-palmed. But I was sitting there like I was ordering noodles. She remembered what I looked like a few days ago, wrecked, defeated, running on fumes. I could see her thinking, how does a man go from that to this in less than a week? Life's funny like that. Business done, I wanted out. Get home. Stay low. Right now, every place that isn't my own apartment felt unsafe. Leaving the building, Chen Ang walked behind me. The round-trip investment structure just needs paperwork from here. The money will flow legally into your mainland account. I didn't slow down, climbed into the Alphard, and waited for her to get in. Handle it however you see fit. I hired you because I trust you. Plus, Yu Liang recommended you, and he wouldn't dare screw me over. My voice was casual, but mentioning Yu Liang was deliberate. A gentle reminder that a deputy police chief was watching this transaction. I appreciate the trust. Screwing you over would mean screwing myself. She got the message. No offense taken. The Alfred was fast. 30 minutes, and we were back at the airport. I stepped out and tilted my face up. Hong Kong sunshine. Warm in a way that felt almost unreal. I pulled out my phone, checked the weather back home, looked at my parents' number. Almost called. Didn't. Some surprises should be delivered in person. And the money was still days away. Popping champagne at halftime is bad luck. Inside the terminal, a crowd was making noise about something. All in Cantonese, couldn't understand a word. I pushed through without caring. But squeezing past people, I caught a scent. Something faint and familiar. Like an old melody you can't quite name. I turned around, but the crowd had already swallowed whatever it was. I frowned for half a second, then walked into the boarding tunnel. What I didn't know was that behind me, the commotion cleared, and a short-haired woman was dragging her mother away while holding a little girl's hand. Mom, you've got the child with you and you're still picking fights with strangers? I'm never letting you babysit again. Oh, so your mother gets pointed at and cursed, and you just play peacemaker? Must be nice being a government official. All that diplomatic training. The short-haired woman rolled her eyes, bent down to the little girl, and said, Xiao Lily, ignore Grandma. Let's go home. The little girl shook her head and reached for Grandma's hand instead. Loyal kid. The woman laughed despite herself. A bright, beautiful laugh. Then the mother said something as they walked out. Qingwan, I think I just saw Chen Ang back there. Near the boarding gate. Did you notice? Mom. You've really got eagle vision and bat hearing. He lives in Binching. Why would he be in Hong Kong? The mother muttered to herself. But what if it was him? You really don't want to see him again? What a sin. Stop being paranoid. Menopause is here. Watch your emotions. The short-haired woman clearly didn't want to talk about it. Change the subject fast. She buckled the little girl into the car seat, then turned her head one last time toward the airport terminal. People coming and going. No familiar figure. The hope in her eyes slowly faded. She fastened the seatbelt, but her hands moved much slower than usual. Some people, once you miss them, are they really gone forever? The plane landed after dark. Late October in Bincheng, the air already had that deep autumn bite to it. I said goodbye to Shun Pian at the airport and drove the X5 straight home. We'd already discussed the money back to mainland plan on the flight, so there was nothing left to talk about. Clean split. Got home around 8. Opened the door, nobody home. Huilin and the kid were out, probably visiting Mr. Audi for family bonding time. Didn't care. They've been downgraded to background characters in my life story. Washed up, went to bed, and passed out instantly. 2 flights in one day had turned my body into a bag of wet concrete. Next morning I got up, walked into the living room, and there was Huilin. Shockingly, she didn't start any drama. I didn't poke the bear either. Just did the usual routine. Washed up, grabbed Zetian, and headed out. Bought him some breakfast, dropped him at school, and then freedom. I quit my job. The kid was at school. I had absolutely nothing to do. So I did what every retired billionaire should do on a Tuesday. Watched old men play chess. Ate at a fancy restaurant. Booked a hotel room for an afternoon nap. Stood by the river watching people fish. 5 o'clock, picked up Zetian. Dropped him at his new fencing class. Walked to the foot massage place nearby. Got my feet done and a back rub. Day over. This is the life that every 9-to-5 wage slave on the planet dreams about. If it weren't for that USB drive, I'd be driving DD rides right now instead of getting my feet rubbed by a professional. The next 3 days were exactly the same. Rinse and repeat. Glorious nothing. Then on day 4, a Saturday, I'd just dropped Zetian at fencing when Shun Pian called. First batch is in the account. I took a deep, slow breath. My body started trembling and my face went hot. I slapped my own cheeks to cool down and told myself, this is only the beginning. Don't celebrate yet, idiot. I pulled out my phone and called Jiang Shan. Dig into Tu Yuandong's company. Cash flow, clients, suppliers, I want everything. The more detail, the better. Hung up. Wired him another 10 grand. Then drove to the law office. River view through those giant windows. Shin Pian had tea waiting. The second I sat down, she got straight to it. Hong Kong side is done. First batch, 24.9 million US dollars. In your account. I nodded. Said nothing. But the light in my eyes must have gotten about 10 times brighter. She pushed a document across the table. Now, the round-trip investment. You need a mainland company to receive the funds. We'll register a new one, 50 million yuan in capital. Legal representative. You? Or? I leaned back into the couch. Thought for a moment. Put my brother, Chen Ang, as the legal rep. I don't want a single asset under my own name. We talked about the company before, but I had my own reasons for the legal rep part. My little brother Zhua has been spending a lot of time at our parents' house, and it's not because he loves the countryside. His wife is a piece of work. She married into our family when we were still rich, and when we went bankrupt a year later, she turned into a completely different person. Started treating Zhua, mom, and dad like garbage. Now that I have the means, it's time to put some steel in my brother's spine. Shen Pianran misread the situation completely. She stared at me like I was setting my brother up to take the fall for something shady. I caught her look. Relax. Since when does legal representative automatically mean fall guy? Besides, what exactly do I need a fall guy for? She shrugged with this helpless little expression that showed a side of her I hadn't seen before. Kind of. Human. She made notes on the file, then looked up. Company name. Still using Zenhentai? I shook my head. Thought about it. Hengxing Investments. She wrote it down. Where will the investment land? My hometown. Jiangning County, Lin City. I sipped the flower tea she'd poured. But no rush. Feel things out first, set up the framework. Money comes in, then we move. I like my chips safely on the table before I play. Hong Kong capital at the county level. They'll roll out the red carpet for you. She nodded and continued. So how do you plan to use the funds? I set the teacup down. Everything goes through the company. Eyebrow up. Confused. All of Hengxing's money stays as corporate assets. Watches, luxury cars, daily expenses, all company charges. I personally remain completely, officially, beautifully broke. Tax optimization. Her first thought was what every rich person's lawyer thinks about. Debt optimization. I looked at her and paused. I'm getting divorced. Divorced? Her pen stopped. She looked up at me, eyes wide, full of questions and curiosity. Here's the thing. The Bitcoin is pre-marriage property. But once it's sold and reinvested, there's a risk it gets classified as marital investment income. I'm not leaving even a crack in the armor. So Hengxing Investments is an independent legal entity. My name owns nothing. Zero assets. As for my salary, I quit my job, remember? What salary? Shen Pianran went quiet for a few seconds, then sighed with this weary half-smile. This setup is legally airtight. The luxury car belongs to the company. You drive it to meet clients. Who the clients are? Irrelevant. The designer suits? Company image requirements. Assigned to you for client-facing duties. Ownership. Still the company. Future real estate? Company purchased, on loan to you as an employee benefit. Your salary? You're a selfless, dedicated individual who believes in the mission. Annual pay. 1 yuan. Completely bulletproof. She couldn't hold it in anymore. She covered her mouth laughing, her whole face softening up. I smiled back. This woman is actually kind of entertaining. She composed herself and went serious again. This structure has no holes, but you still need a legitimate business purpose. Then we invent one. I shrugged. Investing in my hometown is the business purpose. But not yet. First things first. Let's get the immediate stuff handled. She didn't push further. Made more notes. Oh, one more thing. Buy me a watch. Around 500,000. Rolex or Patek Philippe. Either works, but it has to be real. Put it on the company. I remembered that Huilan's family was visiting in November. Apparently, they wanted to borrow bride price money for Huilan's brother's wedding. And if I remembered correctly, the brother's fiancée was a total gold digger. Your sister cuckolded me. The least I can do is have a friendly chat with your future wife. Fair's fair, right? You really don't hold back, do you? Using me like a personal assistant now. She wrote it down, looking annoyed but not actually angry. I'm paying you, Attorney Shun. I stood up to leave. At the door, I turned back. Oh, the next batch of Bitcoin. When does that land? About 5 days. This time it's 530 coins. After fees, roughly 33 million US dollars. My fist clenched at my side. I nodded. Keep it in the Hong Kong account for now. We'll transfer as needed. Then I walked out. Time for the show to begin. Left the law office with time to kill, so I called Mom. How's everything at home? Her voice came through tired and heavy. Same old. Your second uncle and your aunt came by again. What did they want? Money, what else? Back when we helped them, we never expected anything in return. Her voice got really quiet, like she was scared someone might hear. Your dad hasn't slept well. They're his own brother and sister, and they're threatening to sue him. My fingers went white around the steering wheel. When my family had money, we helped every relative who showed up with their hand out. When we needed help, crickets. And now they're suing my dad over old debts? Family suing family. Mom, hold on a little longer. I'm coming home for Grandma's birthday. I'll sort everything out. The money situation, don't worry about it. Chen Ang, don't do anything crazy, Mom. Trust me, I cut her off. Your son isn't going to break any laws. And don't tell Dad I called. Some of these relatives, we're done with them. Let Dad see their true colors these next few days. He hasn't seen their true colors after all these years. Another long sigh. Fine. I trust you. Come home soon. I will. I'm transferring you some money. And please actually spend it this time. Hung up. Leaned back. Closed my eyes. Ran through everything in my head. Then called my little brother Chinjua. The phone rang so long I almost gave up. Finally he picked up, voice completely lifeless. Hey bro. What's up? Is Dad okay? Got upset again. You didn't tell Xiaoxi, right? No. Our sister's studies are too important. Can't distract her right now, Shua sighed. Then he let out this pathetic little laugh. It's our fault for being useless. If we were worth anything, we wouldn't be getting pushed around everywhere. That hit me like acid in my chest. Bitter, burning, impossible to swallow. I know my brother. Something's really wrong with him. Could be his wife being awful. Could be work. Could be both. Probably both. I took a long breath. Wasn't I exactly the same way not long ago? Helpless against everything? Shua. When I come back for Grandma's birthday, I'm paying off all the debts. Every last one. Silence on the other end. Bro, did you get money somehow? Don't tell me you won the lottery. Don't worry about where. Just wait for me. And stand up straight with those relatives. Show Dad you've got a backbone. More silence. Then a quiet, that sounded like it came through a throat full of tears. I knew exactly how he felt. And hearing that he still trusted me without question, that loosened something in my chest. After hanging up, I opened WeChat and transferred 50,000 to Mom's bank card. Thought about it. Found my little sister Chin-Shi's profile. Sent her 10,000 too. Then I started the car and headed toward school. Going home can wait a bit longer. I need things on this end locked down first. But now I've got the firepower. Home will be okay. And from now on, not a single relative will ever take advantage of my family again. Some things can't be rushed, though. Dad's blind loyalty to his siblings. That disease needs proper treatment. October's sun wasn't warm, but it glared off the windshield like a spotlight. Got to the fencing academy just as the second class ended. Zetian came sprinting out drenched in sweat, waving a plastic training sword, yelling, H.A. H.A. Dad. I won today. I poked the fat kid 5 times. I smiled and ruffled his hair. Amazing. I knew you'd grow up to be a legendary swordsman. His eyes went supernova. Of course. And I'm learning robotics too. I'm gonna build a transformer. Absolutely. Whatever you want, you learn it all. But don't skip cello either. I kept rubbing his head. Smile stuck on permanent. I'm a man. I keep my promises. He clutched his fencing helmet to his chest, bouncing like a human pogo stick. Brought him home. Sent him off to play. Then I took the payment receipts out of my folder and arranged them in a perfect little display on the dining table. Fencing, 38,000. Equipment, 5,000. Robotics, 28,000. Cello lessons, 22,000. Instrument, 5,000. Grand total, 98,000 yuan. And right there in the contract, black ink on white paper. After the 3rd class, all fees are non-refundable. I admired my masterpiece, flopped onto the couch, and started playing with my phone. When Huilin came home, Zetian was out on the little balcony building robot blocks, totally in his own world. Xiaodian, did you finish your homework? Done. Didn't even look up. She nodded with satisfaction, walked into the dining area, scanned the table, and froze. 3 payment receipts and contracts, laid out like evidence at a crime scene. She picked them up, read them one by one. Her face went from normal to iron gray to deathly white, like watching a mood ring die. Chen Ang, have you lost your mind? So much for her plan to play nice. Her voice came out sharp enough to pop eardrums. I sat up slowly from the couch, tilted my head toward the dining area. What's wrong? What is this 100,000 yuan garbage? Pure rage. Eyes wide in total disbelief. Xiaoyan's new classes. Fencing, robotics, cello. You always said he needs to be well-rounded, right? I shrugged. Hey, I'm just following your instructions here. She slammed the receipts on the table so hard the surface shook. Her voice was literally trembling. Who told you to sign him up? Did you discuss this with me? I didn't even say anything about the 300,000 car, and now another 100,000? What are you doing? Borrowed it from an online lending platform. Just covering things for now. Voice flat, casual. Look, I know deep down you still want the divorce. And you're still young. Once we split, you'll find a new man. You know the old saying, when there's a stepfather, there's a stepmom. I'm worried that once you move on, you won't invest in the kid's future properly. So I figured I'd front-load his development now. Kind of like insurance. What's wrong with that? You. Her eyes went completely white around the edges. The malicious accusation nearly made her cough blood. She grabbed the contract and flipped through it frantically, found the line about the third class, and her eyes started turning red. Third class? You already took him 3 times? Yep. Xiaoyan loves it. Kept going back. The teachers say he's talented, worth investing in. I paused for just the right amount of time. Besides, you haven't really been home these past few days. I couldn't find the right time to tell you. Talented? They just say that to get your money. Go get a refund. Right now, full volume screaming. I stood up, walked to the table, picked up the contract, and pointed at the fine print at the bottom. Read this part. After the third class, no refunds. They gave us 3 chances to change our minds. If you don't believe me, call them yourself. Like I'm going to let her get a refund and ruin this whole beautiful operation? I was getting more and more excited to watch the next phase of her facial expressions. Huilin whipped out her phone and called the fencing academy. Hi, my child signed up for fencing. Only had 3 classes. Can I get a refund? Sorry, ma'am. The contract is very clear. No refunds after the third class. You sent the child 3 times, which means you agreed to the terms. She stood there like someone had yanked her soul out through her nostrils. She called the robotics place. Same script. Same answer. She called the cello school. Same script. Same answer. 3 for 3. A perfect score in rejection. Her phone slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the table. That little smack was what snapped her back to reality. Then she erupted. Chen Ang, I was just thinking maybe we shouldn't divorce. Maybe we should try to make this work. And this is how you make it work? Oh, this was precious. In her mind, if she graciously agreed to stay married, I was supposed to fall at her feet in gratitude and hand over every penny like a good little ATM. Instead, reality just slapped her across both cheeks. I leaned against the dining cabinet, casually pulled out a pack of yellow Crane Tower 1916 cigarettes, and lit one up like I was posing for a magazine cover. Took a slow, luxurious drag. Squinted at her through the smoke. Let a ghost of a smile cross my lips. Exhaled. I signed my own son up for after-school classes. Why are you this angry? She froze. Even SHE realized her tantrum made zero logical sense. A father investing in his child's education? What monster does that? She was just furious that money left the household without passing through her fingers first. I kept the cold laughter on the inside and put on my best wounded puppy expression. Huilin, if you really want the divorce, I'll agree. But I want full custody of Xiaoyan. She had no idea I was playing chess while she was playing checkers. Her chest heaved, her breath caught, and panic mixed with rage on her face like oil and water. Give the kid to me? Never. That's her meal ticket for life. That's not what I meant. I just think you shouldn't throw money around like this. Who's going to pay for all of it? You're already drowning in debt, and now you're spending like crazy. Have you thought about MY future? Xiaoyan's future? All she could do was attack the money angle. Xiaoyan is our child. Of course we pay for it. And because I'm in debt, I want to invest more in the kid now. Dead serious face, intense eye contact. Speaking of which, you have that fixed deposit at the agricultural bank, right? 100,000? Hand it over so I can pay off the loan I took out for this. Huilin looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Why should I pay for your loan? And did I even agree to these classes? I let my face darken. Voice dropped low. What the hell kind of thing is that to say? Is Xiaoyan not your son? She was speechless. Mouth open, no words coming out. Before she could reload, I fired again. So you're not going to pay? Fine. Tomorrow I'll go visit your workplace and have a chat with your boss. Let them be the judge of whether I'm in the wrong here. You're insane. Go to my office. Make me a laughingstock? Chen Ang, do you even know what you're doing? She was shaking all over, face twisted into something between a horror movie poster and a gargoyle. I was having the time of my life. Completely ignored her meltdown and pressed on. This money, did you spend it somewhere else? Don't tell me you've been messing around behind my back. That one landed like a missile. Her eyes couldn't meet mine. She turned her head away and snapped. What nonsense are you talking about? Here, take it. Blow it all. This marriage is impossible. Tears streaming, she dug into her purse, yanked out a bank card, and threw it at me. These past 2 days, she'd watched me go completely off script, and between the guilt eating her alive and the terror of me actually showing up at her workplace, she caved. She could only comfort herself. At least the money's going to her son. But the thought of failing to squeeze any information out of me and losing 100,000 yuan in the process? That rage shot straight to the top of her skull like a geyser. Once she coughed it up, I bent down, picked up the bank card, and softened my voice to Father of the Year mode. I know what you're worried about. I've got it all under control. You want a divorce because of Xiaodian. I get it. All I want is to give our son the best childhood possible. Actually, I've been thinking about sending him abroad to study someday. Hearing my gentle tone, she finally dared to look at me again. She studied my face, part self-deprecating, part earnest, and concluded that the divorce threat must have shocked me into some kind of desperate fatherhood overdrive. She had absolutely no clue this was a stalling tactic. I sighed, sat down on the couch, rubbed my face with both hands, looked up at her, and asked in a low, serious voice, Huilin, tell me, is a child's education an investment or an expense? Don't start with that philosophical garbage. She turned away. Look at me. Answer the question. Quiet voice. Steel underneath. She bit her lip. Said nothing. Investment. Education is an investment. I answered for her, perfectly earnest. Which first grader today doesn't have 3 to 5 extracurriculars? If Xiaodian has nothing, what's his school application going to look like? Fencing builds character. Robotics builds logical thinking. Cello builds artistic sensibility. You don't understand any of this. All you know is pinching pennies. I will not let my child lose at the starting line. Do you understand me? I delivered this with the passionate conviction of a father whose only dream is to see his son succeed. Oscar-worthy. She tried to argue, but the words died in her throat. For one beautiful moment, she actually felt ashamed, like she, the biological mother, cared less about this child's future than the man who wasn't even his real father. She was furious at her own inability to out-argue me. She had never wished harder in her life that she was better with words. Right on cue, the little general himself appeared. Zetian had heard the whole argument from his balcony outpost. He walked over, looked at his mother, and delivered the kill shot. Mom, I don't want to lose at the starting line either. The teachers say I'm talented. That sentence was a dagger straight through Huilin's already crumbling defenses. Her face went white. Her breathing turned ragged. Her chest felt like it was being crushed. Inside her head, one thought. This son is a waste of investment. I should have kept the receipt. Meanwhile, watching Zetien's perfectly timed assist, I was dying on the inside. What a beautiful, oblivious little weapon. Of course the teachers said he's talented. I told them to say that. I paid them to say that. In this moment, I felt like a man who'd been running in 100-degree heat, drenched in sweat, and someone just handed him a giant ice-cold Coke. I could not wait to see what Huilin did next. Huilin tilted her head back, eyes shut, trying to get her breathing under control. Perfect. Time to twist the knife. Xiaoyan's in first grade. This is the golden window for building interests. If you, as his mother, are too cheap to invest in him, don't come crying to me when he blames you later. She was completely out of ammo. She turned to look at Zetian, and there he was, bottom lip out, face scrunched up, radiating maximum disappointment at his own mother. She stood there cycling through colors, red, white, red again, tears pooling in her eyes, but mostly she just looked like a pressure cooker about to blow. After a long silence, she tried one last shot. Chen Ang, why are you saying all this nonsense in front of the child? Have you lost all sense of priorities? Lost my priorities? I almost cracked up, held it together, stared straight at her. Huilin, I'm trying to teach you how to be a good mother. Put your hand on your heart and tell me. Is what you just said something a decent person says? She lowered her head. Speechless. She realized she'd gone full crazy mode right in front of a 6-year-old who is small, but definitely not stupid. Sure enough, she glanced at Zetian. His face was crumbling, eyes already brimming with tears. Time for the finishing move. You don't take responsibility, fine. But now I signed the kid up for classes, and you yell at me? Are you even his real mom? I said, real mom, very, very slowly. Then turned my head to look at Zetian. The kid picked up the cue like a trained actor. Mommy, his voice wobbled. Are you not really my mommy? I nearly died trying not to laugh. Then I looked at Huilin, and she had the expression of someone who just watched their entire family get hit by a bus. My heart soared. She went ghost white, lips trembling, and after what felt like an eternity, squeezed out. Shouty on, of course I'm your mommy. Mommy just doesn't want to waste money. You're not. Dad said so. You just don't want me to spend money. I'm never talking to you again. Zetian burst into tears and sprinted to his room. Huilin finally broke. 2 streams of tears rolling down her face. She glared at me through the waterworks. Happy now? You just don't want me to have a good life? A good life? Lady, you think I'm still the old Chen Ang? I glanced at her, said nothing, pocketed the bank card, flopped back onto the couch, and started reading the message Jiang Shan just sent me. She stood there watching me lounge around like I didn't have a care in the world and completely lost it. Started crying for real. Broken, choppy sobs. Sounded like a cat getting strangled. I didn't look up. My mouth curled upward. Tu Yuandong's company report was way more interesting than her tears. After about 2 minutes of crying with zero audience reaction, she gave up, shuffled into the bedroom sniffling, and slammed the door. I glanced over. Couldn't stop the grin. Cried out, sweetheart. There'll be plenty more opportunities. 7 years of marriage, and today was the first time my mind felt clear. Turns out the secret to inner peace isn't self-improvement. It's making other people miserable. Refreshing. I opened Jiang Shan's files and started reading line by line. Thorough stuff. Money well spent. Tu Yuandong. 32. Divorced. Yuandong Decoration Company, Ltd. Registered capital, 5 million. Actually paid in, 2 million. Main business, construction materials supply and renovation projects. Primary supplier, Yuda Supply Chain Management Company. Financials? Not great. Company debt around 10 million, 6 million in bank loans, 4 million in payables. Cash flow tight for the past 3 months. Already late on 2 supplier payments. Currently negotiating a big contract with Binqing Road and Bridge Group. Contract value, 40 million yuan. Requires 5 million in upfront capital. Yuandong is scrambling for money everywhere. Then I saw the name Yuda Supply Chain, and my eyes narrowed. Well, what a coincidence. My brother Chinjua works at Yuda, and before my family went bankrupt, our construction materials company did business with Yuda too. Small world. Very, very small world. I backed out of the file and messaged Jiang Shan. Dig deeper on Yuandong's background. Then I called Shunpian Ran. Attorney Shin, you free tomorrow? I need your help with something. What is it? Her voice was tired. Look into a company called Yuda Supply Chain. Also, I might want to buy it. 2 seconds of silence. Then she agreed. Next morning, Huilin left the house with twin panda eyes, didn't eat breakfast, didn't even check on Zetian. Just changed shoes and vanished. Since we hadn't had our big showdown yet, I kept playing the role. Dropped Zetian at school, then drove straight to the law office. Morning mist still hanging over the river outside those huge windows. Shinpian Ran had tea ready and a stack of documents spread out. Yuda's file, she tapped the papers. Then pushed a box across the table. Also your Patek Philippe. 510,000. Hengxing's account isn't set up yet, so this went through Zinhentai's books. I had to hand it to this woman. I mentioned the watch once, in passing, and she had it sourced and delivered. Clearly bought it in Hong Kong too. Execution speed, terrifying. I took the box without opening it and went straight to the file. Yuda Supply Chain. Owner, Zhou Yuda. 20 years in the construction materials game. Company in good shape. Annual revenue about 140 million yuan. Net profit around 8 million. When I looked up, Shunpian Ran spoke, her voice slightly raspy. Zhou Yuda has been thinking about retirement. His son settled abroad, doesn't want the business. He's been asking 36 million to sell. 36 million? I did the math. 8 million in annual profit. That price seems pretty fair. How come nobody's buying? The company's solid, good cash flow. She sipped her coffee. You buy it, guaranteed money. But he wants full payment up front. One lump sum, 36 million, all at once. In this economy, yeah, that would scare most buyers away. Now I had the full picture. I leaned forward, tapped the desk lightly, then pointed at Tu Yuandong's company on the page. If I buy Yuda, and then cut off supply to this company, any legal problems? I need to review the contracts between both companies carefully. She took the question seriously. But if supply is cut, Yuandong Decoration would be in massive trouble. She flipped to another page and showed me. 60% of their materials come from Yuda. Cut that off and their active projects will fall behind schedule, leading to breach of contract. Their only alternative would be buying materials at premium prices from other suppliers. She sat back, tilted her head slightly, and gave me that curious look, clearly wondering why I had it out for some random renovation company. I ignored her curiosity. My mind was on Jiang Shan's intel. Yuandong was chasing a 40 million yuan contract. That deal would definitely have supply chain requirements baked into it. You're thinking about waiting until Yuandong signs that contract before cutting supply. Shen Pianran read my expression and figured out the plan almost instantly. And then, for the first time, she looked genuinely shocked. You seem to know a lot about Yuandong Decoration? I asked, suddenly suspicious. My face must have shown it too. I was wondering if Shen Pianran had been investigating me. She read my mind instantly and smiled. You asked me to research Yuda last night. Naturally, I'd look into their major clients. Yuandong Decoration is a long-time customer, so of course I did my homework. Why? Is there more to it? She looked casual on the surface, but I could tell she was dying of curiosity about what kind of secrets would make a man this careful and paranoid. We'll talk about that after Yuda is acquired. You'll find out eventually. I shelved my suspicions. This woman was sharp and competent, a dangerous combination. I glanced at her again. So how do you plan to negotiate with Zhou Yuda? Me negotiate? She looked genuinely startled, like I'd just told her she was also doing my laundry. Mr. Chen, I know you have money, but you can't just keep shearing the same sheep. I'm a lawyer, not a one-woman corporation. She pointed at her own eyes. Look, concealer can't even hide these dark circles anymore. Hongxing Investments isn't set up yet. I still need to fly to Hong Kong to oversee the second batch of Bitcoin. And now this. I coughed awkwardly. Well, talented people do more work. I know you've got connections. I'll pay you 3% of the 36 million purchase price as your fee. If you negotiate it down by $1 million, I'll bump it to 4%. That generous? Fine, I'll do it for the money. Her eyes slid off me with an elegant little look that said she knew exactly how to handle rich men. I had the distinct feeling I was being managed by this woman. But whatever, get the job done, and this kind of money is nothing. Destroying Tu Yuandong's company would bring me peace of mind and spiritual clarity. Worth it. Plus, Yuda was actually a decent business. Good operations, solid track record. Maybe Dad could take it over someday. Give him something to wash away all those years of humiliation. That alone was better than anything. Use Hongxing Investments' name. You handle the price. Full payment, fast closing. You don't want to meet him yourself? No, I shook my head. I don't like showing my face. You represent me fully. Your call, boss. Shoulder shrug. Helpless smile. She sipped her coffee, dabbed her lips, and continued. About the round-trip investment. Jiangning County is pushing a cultural tourism project. I spoke with the head of the Cultural Tourism Bureau, Director Sue. We've set up a meeting. She's impressive, by the way. Negotiations will be tough. For such a young woman to hold that position, she'd have to be. A woman surnamed Sue? I blinked. A face flashed through my mind. Gorgeous, radiant, impossible to forget. I shook my head and laughed at myself. No way. Can't be that coincidental. Shen Pianran caught my reaction like a hawk catching a mouse. What? Someone you know? This woman's radar was terrifying. I shook my head and picked up my tea. No. Actually, there's something else I wanted to ask. I need a long-term legal counsel. Interested, her eyes sparkled. Mr. Big Boss thinks I'm easy to exploit, huh? I smiled. I just like how you work. What? You don't think I'd be a good long-term partner? I have no objections at all. You're rich and generous. Dream client. I'm just worried you're running on adrenaline right now and you'll change your mind later. I stood up. Then draw up another contract, Attorney Shun. I'll get going. She nodded, walked me out, and after I left, her eyebrows curved into a tiny smirk of victory. While I was plotting the destruction of Yuandong decoration, Huilin didn't go to work. She went to find her boyfriend to strategize. My recent behavior had her rattled. Yuandong decoration sat in a half-floor office in a development zone building. Decent, not lavish. When she walked in, Tu Yuandong was on the phone. He waved her to sit. 2 minutes later, he hung up, rubbed his temples, and looked at her. What happened? You look awful. Her eyes went red again. Chen Ang has lost his mind. She told him about the classes. 100,000, non-refundable. Yuandong frowned. 100,000? Where'd he get the money? He said online loans. She chewed her lip. Something feels wrong. He went quiet, stubbed out his cigarette, and thought for a moment. Don't panic. I think Chen Ang changed his mind about the divorce and doesn't want to give you the assets. If you want to split, you'll probably have to go through legal channels. Court? Huilin was surprised. She still hadn't figured out whether I actually had money. The last thing she wanted right now was to bring up divorce. Yeah? Talk to a lawyer. See how to maximize your take if it goes to court. The word, maximize, snapped her brain back into business mode. She thought for a second and nodded. I still feel uneasy, though. Do you think he knows about us? What do we do? Yuandong's eyes shifted. He reached over, took her hand, and went soft voice. Don't worry too much. If he knew, he'd be throwing furniture. No man could sit on something like that. That actually made sense to Huilin. She'd been careful, covered her tracks. If I really knew, things would be much uglier than some after-school class drama. Once she'd calmed down a bit, Yuandong pushed further. Just in case, though, you should start transferring assets. Otherwise, you'll walk away with nothing. The apartments. Leave those to me. I'll figure something out. As for your savings, how about you wire them to my company account? We'll call it a joint marital investment. I'll cook the books to show a loss. Investments carry risk. Nobody can argue with that. The second she heard, wire your savings to my account, her alarm bells went off like a fire station. She'd been counting on Yuandong as her backup plan. She did not expect the backup plan to be reaching for her wallet too. When she thought about it, at least with me, there was a guaranteed 8,000 a month coming in. Reliable income stream. Audi boy? Not so much. Selling the apartments would need his agreement, and that's not happening. And my savings are in fixed deposits. Can't pull them out easily. Yuandong wasn't dumb enough to push harder. He pulled her into a hug and went gentle. No rush. I'll figure it out. Think it over. You know everything I do is for our future. He knew she wasn't actually naive. A truly naive woman wouldn't have found me to be her designated sucker 7 years ago. This had to be played slowly. After leaving his office, Huilin zombied through the rest of her workday with the mental processing power of a broken calculator. The second it hit quitting time, she rushed home to probe me again. She walked in. Living room lights on. Kitchen empty. Found Zetian in the study room, glued to the iPad, gaming his face off. Looked at the desk. Homework completely untouched. All the rage she'd been bottling up for days suddenly exploded like a shaken soda can. She grabbed the books and homework and hurled them at Zetian. Chen Zetian, this is how you study. Not even doing your homework? Who said you could play games? The kid had been deep in gaming trance. Books smacking his body jolted him awake. Pain registered. He looked up at his furious mother and immediately put down the iPad, eyes filling with tears, and dragged himself to the desk. You're in first grade, not kindergarten. You don't know you have homework? She was still boiling, jabbing his forehead with her finger. The dam broke. Full waterworks. Dad said I could play a little first and then do homework. Since when is what he says the law? Do you listen to him or to me? All her frustration with my recent behavior was channeling straight into the kid. She couldn't stop herself. Her hand flew out and smacked Zetian on the shoulder. He yelped in pain and started wailing at full volume. In my room, I heard the commotion, yelling, crying, the whole symphony. I grinned, opened my door, and strolled out. I stepped out of my room and found Zetian standing there with a face full of tears, looking at me like I was the last helicopter out of a war zone. I walked into the study, shot Huilin a disapproving look, and said, "He's just a kid. You're hitting him and screaming at him. Kids today have strong self-esteem, you know. One day he can't take it anymore and runs away from home. Then what?" Zetian heard me defending him and cranked the crying up to 11. These past few days he'd been noticing that Mommy didn't seem to love him anymore. But Daddy? Daddy was suddenly the best person alive. Huilin nearly combusted. Since when did I ever get involved in parenting? And now I show up just to undermine her? What was I playing at? Worse, what if the kid actually took my running away comment seriously? Chen Ang, shut your mouth in front of the child. When I'm disciplining him, you stay out of it, she screamed at me, eyes going red. I didn't even flinch. Looked at her, spread my hands. Sure, you educate the kid. Take out all your anger on him. See if he still loves you after. I gave Zetian my best helpless dad shrug. Sorry, buddy. I tried, and walked out. One little seed of discord planted. No need to overdo it. There's plenty of time. Zetian watched me leave like his only lifeline just got yelled away. The tears came down like a waterfall. Huilin looked at my retreating back, then at her sobbing son, and her heart cracked. She started crying too. On the couch, listening to the mother-son crying duet, I felt my mouth curl up like a fishhook. Humming a little tune, I opened my phone, found a 5-star hotel, and ordered a seafood feast for delivery. Then went back to scrolling videos, happy as a clam. Pun intended. Clearly Huilin wasn't cooking tonight, and I certainly wasn't going to starve. Besides, all the money I'm spending right now is technically marital property. Can't be stingy with our money. 30 minutes later, the food arrived. I spread the entire banquet across the dining table and went to town. Didn't call anyone. Didn't check on the crying duo in the bedroom. Just me and my seafood, having the time of our lives. When Huilin finally emerged with Zetian, I was gnawing on half a king crab. Her jaw dropped. She did not expect me to order something this expensive. She definitely didn't expect me to eat it alone without even telling them. Rage rebooted instantly. She pointed at the spread of luxury shellfish. Chen Ang, what are you doing? Are we even living together anymore? What do you mean? We're not so poor we can't eat. I've been working my ass off for years. I can't have one nice meal? I set the crab down, picked up a sea cucumber with my chopsticks, popped it in my mouth, and waved at Zetian. Hey buddy, come eat some lobster. You got hit today, gotta replenish your nutrients. Zetian looked at his mom. Looked at the mountain of gorgeous, fragrant seafood. Swallowed hard. Mommy, I'm hungry. Didn't wait for permission. Scrambled into his chair like a starving raccoon. I smiled and gestured for him to dig in, completely ignoring Huilin, whose eyes were generating enough heat to cook another lobster. See, life without self-torture is wonderful. Life where you torture other people? Even better. Huilin was losing her mind. This spread was at least 2,000 or 3,000 yuan. The Chen Ang she knew would have agonized over buying a 10 yuan side dish. This man eating king crab like it was instant noodles was a stranger. Was he trying to bankrupt her through seafood? Was this his strategy, spin her into the ground? A chill crawled up her spine. Her hands trembled. Watching me casually demolish premium shellfish like it was my job, she knew that if she didn't figure something out soon, she was going to actually lose her mind. You're not eating? Not hungry? On a diet? Or you just don't like seafood? I popped an abalone into my mouth, eyeing her. Seafood. Who the hell doesn't love seafood? She was vibrating with rage, but couldn't bring herself to sit down and eat. She felt like she was so angry she was already full. Looking at my carefree face, she had the overwhelming urge to strangle me with a crab leg. Without a word, she turned to leave. Hey, even if you're not eating, could you at least pay for it? I'm completely broke. This went on Huabei credit. I called after her. She froze mid-step, turned around. Her eyes were actual flamethrowers. Did I ask you to order this? Is there no food in this house? Zero anger from me. I nudged Zetian and stage whispered, see how stingy your mom is? She's scared we'll eat too much, so there's less for her. Shook my head sadly. Picked up another massive crab claw and went back to work. Zetian sat there clutching a piece of lobster meat, looking back and forth between us with confused, hurt eyes. Huilin caught her son sneaking glances at her, glances that looked suspiciously like disgust. Combined with the guilt of having just smacked him, she was falling apart at the seams. She wanted to control her temper, but it shot right back up. She grabbed a plastic container off the table and hurled it at me. Chen Ang, can you stop saying garbage in front of Xiaodian? What do you want from me? Days of this had worn her down to nothing. She was mentally exhausted, physically drained. Her chest was seized with sharp, stabbing pains. She could barely breathe. She was pretty sure breast cancer was in her near future at this rate. I tilted my head to dodge the flying container, set down my crab claw, and looked at her with perfect seriousness. I'm not the one causing problems. You should be thinking about how to be a good wife and a good mother. If you can't do that, or don't want to do it for me specifically, then fine. I agreed to divorce. But I get custody of Xiaodian. The custody card again. Her vision went dark. Her knees wobbled. With the way I'd been acting lately, she was terrified of what would happen to the kid if he actually ended up with me. Chen Ang, I'm begging you. What do you want? She ground the words out one by one, eyes locked on mine, full of pain and helplessness. I told you I'm broke. I asked you to pay for dinner, and you turned it into a whole production. Anyone watching would think I was beating you. Defeated sigh. Sad face. 7 years. I've given you almost 1,000,000 yuan. And now I can't even get you to pay for one meal without a lecture. I shoved a chunk of sea cucumber in my mouth and stopped engaging. Full performance complete. Zetian heard the arguing and went quiet, head down, focused on his lobster, but his eyes kept sneaking sideways looks at his mother, looks that were starting to carry a very specific energy. Huilin caught those looks. They felt like judgment, maybe even contempt. She felt herself crumbling from the inside out. She'd never imagined I could be this relentless. She hadn't slept properly in days, hadn't had a single peaceful moment. Every day was a new ambush. At this point, she was starting to think maybe divorce was the best option. Even if she couldn't squeeze more assets out of me, at least she wouldn't have to live like this. No more words. She opened her phone, transferred me 3,000 yuan, and walked into the bedroom without looking back. I glanced at the notification, popped the last abalone into my mouth, and headed to my room. Passing the master bedroom, I peeked through the gap in the door. Huilin was curled up on the bed, shaking with quiet sobs. My mouth curved upward. Just wait, sweetheart. The good times haven't even started yet. Back in my room, I was planning my next moves when my phone lit up. Shen Pian ran. Zhou Yuda agreed to preliminary terms. Price, 33.5 million. Signing the letter of intent tomorrow, I replied with one word. Good. Then I messaged Jiang Shan. That 40 million contract Yuan Dong is chasing. When does it sign? Quick reply. Next week. Road and Bridge is already processing the paperwork. Heard the project timeline is tight. I smiled. Tight timeline. Even better. Next week, the show begins. That night, I slept like a baby on a cloud made of revenge. Woke up early the next morning and discovered a phenomenon I hadn't experienced in a very long time. Who says middle-aged men can't rise to the occasion? That's just what a dog's life does to you. Crushes your back and your kidneys. Important things to handle today, so I didn't bother with the little wolf cub and headed straight out. At Shen Pianran's office, she pushed a file across the desk. Yuda acquisition intent is signed. 33.5 million. Payment clears, same-day handover. I flipped through it. Nodded. I need someone in Yuda's management. Got a candidate? She pulled out her notebook and pen. My brother. He already works at Yuda's Jiangning branch office. Makes sense, she nodded. He's also the legal rep of Hengxing Investments, the acquiring entity. Good to get him involved early. I set down the file. After the acquisition, make him the company's supervisor. Yuda's operations stay exactly as they are. No big changes. Having Zhuo at headquarters was about keeping eyes on the finances. Yuda was already profitable. I wasn't about to go in there and play CEO like an idiot. Shen Pianran approved the arrangement. She could tell I wasn't some clueless rich guy throwing darts at a board. I knew exactly what I was doing. Hengxing's registration documents need the legal rep present. Your brother should come sign in person. I'll bring him this afternoon. Done deal. Left the law office, but didn't go to my car. Walked toward the nearby plaza and called Zhuo. A bit of background on Yuda's Jiangning branch. It wasn't tiny. Jiangning County sits near mountains full of kaolin clay and feldspar, perfect for ceramics. That's why tons of tile factories set up shop there. My dad was one of the first entrepreneurs to jump on that back in the day. Yuda Supply Chain's main business is construction materials, and a big chunk of their ceramic tiles gets sourced and shipped from Jiangning. Zhuo works there as a purchasing agent. When I called, he was standing in his branch manager's office. He saw my name, hung up on me, then awkwardly smiled at the manager sitting behind the desk. The manager had a cigarette between his fingers and was looking at my brother like he was watching a clown perform. Chen Zhuo, I'm not trying to pick on you, but how many times is this now? Everyone else's shipments go fine. Yours? Always a mess. You keep causing problems, and I can't keep covering for you. Zhuo laughed bitterly. He couldn't defend himself. Here's the thing. As the buyer, the company spending the money, suppliers and logistics partners should be bending over backwards for you. Plus, Yuda holds shares in the Jiangning ceramic mines, so the factories normally wouldn't dare cause trouble. But Zhuo was getting sabotaged. For months, every shipment he handled had issues, logistics delays, supplier games, random problems popping up like whack-a-mole. Too many coincidences to be coincidence. Someone was targeting him. 4 years at Yudao, without a single issue, and suddenly everything goes wrong? He knew it traced back to his wife, or rather, someone he'd pissed off because of her, about 6 months ago. Manager's son, you know I'm not this unreliable. Fire me if you want, but firing me is too much, right? When your family's already struggling, you can't afford pride. He needed this job, so he swallowed it and begged. Manager's son exhaled smoke and shook his head. Brother, I've covered for you at least 3 times. This time the client complaint went straight to headquarters. My hands are tied. Zhuo's pinky finger started trembling. His breathing went heavy. Something dark flickered across his mind, but he forced it back down. Let's not drag this out. Son waved him toward the door. Go think it over. You're young. If you resign voluntarily, I can work some angles on a severance package. Zhuo understood exactly what that meant. Nothing left to say. He locked eyes with the man for one long second, then turned around and walked out. Son watched him go with a contemptuous little glance, then pulled out his own phone. Outside the office, Zhuo stood in the sunlight feeling nothing but cold. He kept wondering, when you fall down, does the whole world really just line up to step on you? Can you really never get back up? His phone rang again. My name on the screen. He wiped his face and answered. Hey bro, what's up? You called twice. Yeah. Take the afternoon off. Come to benching. Call me when you arrive. Okay. Let me grab a few things, and I'll head out. He didn't ask questions. He knows that in this world, family is the only thing that won't stab you in the back. Meanwhile, Huilin had spent the entire night awake, brains spinning in circles about what was wrong with me, paranoid that I'd somehow figured out the whole cuckold situation. She didn't fall asleep until 4 a.m. By the time Zetian was ready for school, she was still dead to the world. When she finally dragged herself to the mirror, she saw a puffy face, bloodshot eyes, and dark circles that could double as bruises. She almost cried on the spot. Zetian yelled that he was going to be late. She splashed water on her face, grabbed him, and rushed out. No breakfast, no nothing. The whole way to school, she kept replaying my recent behavior. The old me would never leave the kid behind, would never walk out without a word. The more she thought, the more suspicious everything seemed. After dropping Zetian at school, she was about to grab a taxi to work when her phone rang. Landline number. She figured it was the office and picked up. Hello, is this Chen Ang's family? This is Benching Tianli Import-Export Trading Company. She blinked. Yes. What is it? Chen Ang submitted his resignation last week and we've approved it. There are a few documents that need his signature, but we can't reach him. Could you please pass along the message? The hand holding the phone turned to stone. Her eyes filled with pure, undiluted disbelief. What did you say? Chen Ang quit. Yes, it was approved last week. You didn't know? Huilin didn't even let them finish. Hung up, standing on the school steps like a lightning rod that just got struck. He quit, and didn't tell me. 12,000 a month, gone. And come to think of it, he hasn't been doing his side gigs either. Probably quit those too. Another 4,000, gone. He's given up. He's going to be a complete deadbeat. On top of that, car loan, 100,000 in kids' classes, ordering 5-star seafood like a celebrity, doing absolutely nothing around the house. Is he trying to drag me down with him in a murder-suicide by poverty? Panic hit her like a freight train. She felt half her brain evaporate on the spot. Divorce. Must divorce. Any longer, and she'd drown. The thought crawled up her spine like a snake. But then another thought. What if his family really did collect on those debts? What if he actually has money now, and this is all a power play to dump me? She couldn't tell what was real anymore. Her mind was a blender set to maximum. She flagged down a taxi and texted Yuan Dong. He quit his job. I'm terrified. Going to see a lawyer. Now, what I didn't know at the time was what was going on in Audi Boy's world. Yuan Dong was drowning in his own problems. His company's cash flow was circling the drain. If he didn't land the road and bridge contract, bankruptcy was a real possibility. When Huilin's message arrived, he was sitting outside a road and bridge executive's office waiting for a meeting. Reading the message made him flinch. Truth is, he didn't know Huilin that well in the beginning. When they'd broken up years ago, he had no idea she was pregnant. And he definitely didn't know she'd found a sucker, me, to play daddy. They reconnected 2 years ago when his company took on a city investment project and Huilin happened to be the finance person assigned to it. Two ex-lovers thrown back together by fate. Cheaters plus old flames plus opportunity? Yeah, that bonfire lit itself. Then he found out she'd given birth to his son. That spooked him. He had a wife and daughter. No way he was blowing up his marriage over a kid he didn't raise. But his philosophy was simple. Never miss a good woman. Never waste a bad one either. Huilin threw herself at him. The least he could do was provide some emotional value. 2 years of sneaking around. Then last year, his wife caught him. Divorce. She took half his assets. That's why his company was bleeding money. That's when he turned his attention back to Huilin. He was the one pulling strings behind her divorce push. The master plan. Huilin takes all my property. They combine forces. 2 apartments plus savings. Over 5 million yuan, practically in their hands. Then I went rogue, and the whole scheme imploded. Yuandong was furious. Looking at Huilin's panicked texts, he cursed her stupidity internally, but kept his composure. He still needed her to keep me calm. He called her. Tell me exactly what's happening. Don't panic. Stay calm. His smooth voice settled her nerves enough to spill everything. My resignation, the spending sprees, the complete personality transplant. Yuandong listened with deepening frown lines. As a fellow man, he was pretty sure I suspected something. But he couldn't let Huilin sense his alarm. If she panicked, she might sell him out to save herself. Going to a lawyer is smart. You might need to speed up the divorce. Cut your losses while you can. Cut losses? What do you mean? She didn't want to hear that. He's clearly stalling. If you divorce now, you still get half the assets. If he finds out the truth first, you get nothing. As a seasoned businessman, Yuandong knew when to stop being greedy. Take what you can and run. Huilin felt like someone was slicing her flesh off, but she had no better plan. If I'd really discovered her secret. Are you listening? Go see a lawyer. Otherwise, when things blow up, you walk away empty-handed. Fine. I'll go. One more thing. Both apartments are in your name. The one we live in is mine. The old city one is in Xiaoyan's name. I'm the guardian. Check if you can sell them. Even if you can't right now, we need to know our options. And your savings. Move them somewhere safe before a divorce freezes them. His patience was impressive. Very helpful. Very concerned about her money. But Huilin wasn't completely brain-dead. The second she heard him bring up her savings again, her survival instincts kicked in. Her parents? Useless. They only cared about her deadbeat brother. Borrowed at least 300,000 from her over the years and never contributed anything except more requests for cash. No, money was her last lifeline. Until Yuandong offered some actual guarantee, she wasn't handing over her cards. She gave him a vague answer and hung up. She'd see what the lawyer said first. There was no way she was walking away with nothing. No way. Back in the real world, I was standing in the plaza near the financial center after hanging up with Zhua. Beautiful day. The square was full of parents and little kids running around, screaming, being adorable. I watched them and felt this weird, unexpected wave of sadness wash over me. Not because of Zitian and the paternity thing. It was something else, this sudden, sharp awareness that I should have a child of my own. A real one. Even a daughter would be wonderful. Here I am with all this money, and no actual heir. Eventually it'd probably all end up going to my nephew. And as much as I love Zhua, a nephew is still a layer removed. I laughed at myself. I'm 32. Why am I suddenly worrying about having no heir like some ancient emperor? If I showed my bank balance, the line of women volunteering to bear my children would wrap around benching twice. I turned to leave, and something small slammed straight into my thigh. Ow! I looked down. A porcelain doll of a little girl had bounced off me and landed on her butt. Crystal clear skin, rosy pink cheeks, tiny pouty lips, scrunched up button nose, and 2 enormous eyes brimming with maximum injustice. She was about 1 second from crying. Hey kiddo, you ran into me. Where are your parents? I couldn't help smiling. Something about this kid felt weirdly warm and familiar. Then do I have to say sorry? Because I fell down and you didn't. And my butt is cracked into 8 pieces now. She spoke in Mandarin with the cutest little Cantonese accent. I melted. I scooped her up, dusted off her behind, and said, then how about I say sorry to you? Her pout vanished. Giant eyes blinked at me, and her little hands rubbed together thoughtfully. Nah, let's just both not apologize. We're even. I couldn't stop grinning at this tiny negotiator. I patted her head. Deal. Even. So tell uncle your name. She flashed a sugar-sweet smile, eyes curving into little crescent moons. Can't tell strangers my name. Bye-bye, uncle. Grandma May is probably looking for me. If she finds out I ran off, my butt's getting slapped again. She spun around and sprinted toward the bouncy castle across the plaza. I watched her reach a woman in her 50s, who squatted down and started fixing the girl's clothes. Only then did I relax. I started walking toward the plaza exit, and a thought bloomed in my chest. If I had a daughter this adorable, life would be absolutely spectacular. At the edge of the plaza, I turned around one more time, caught a last glimpse of the little porcelain doll bouncing around, and found myself wondering if Shun Pianran knew any legal methods for stealing custody from strangers. What I didn't know was that while I was getting my feet rubbed, Huilin was sitting in a lawyer's office having her entire world demolished. She'd Googled best divorce lawyers in Bincheng and found some guy named Zhou Zheng who specialized in asset division. His office was in a modest building in the old district, nothing fancy, but apparently the man was a savage in divorce court. She sat down across from him, purse on her lap, fingers strangling the strap like it owed her money. Then she started talking. And by talking, I mean she dumped her entire emotional dumpster fire on this poor man's desk with zero organization. Bounced from my family's $4 million debt to the BMW to the 100,000 in kids' classes to my resignation, all scrambled up like eggs in a blender. She mentioned everything. Except, of course, the tiny little detail about the kid not being mine. Zhou Zheng didn't interrupt, just jotted down a few keywords while she word vomited for 10 minutes straight. When she finally ran out of steam, he started asking questions. Did you sign any guarantees for your in-laws' debt? No. Was any of that money used for your family's daily life? No, it was his father's company debt. Then in principle, that debt is not considered joint marital debt. That's in your favor. Huilin exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for 7 years. At least that wasn't going to follow her. However, Zhou Zheng flipped the script. The X5 and the classes, different story. Her relief evaporated. The X5 was purchased with a loan during the marriage. If your husband can prove it was used for family purposes, picking up the child, driving you to work, a judge would very likely classify it as joint marital debt. Huilin felt lightning strike her skull. She suddenly remembered that for the first few days, I'd been dutifully driving Zetian to and from school in that BMW, building a paper trail, and she hadn't even noticed. Was this all calculated? Blood rushed to her head. Her chest seized. The room started spinning. Everything made her look like a clown. Zhou Zheng wasn't done. The extracurricular classes are the same. Educational expenses for children count as joint family spending. You say you didn't know. Can you prove you didn't know at the time? Can you prove you opposed it? If not, you're on the hook for half. Huilin's face went white. All she remembered from that night was screaming at me. Collecting evidence? That hadn't even crossed her mind. Zhou Zheng read her expression and got the answer. No sympathy, just facts. Then you pay half. Also, you said he quit his job, he continued. If he has no income, you, as his spouse, have a legal obligation of mutual support during marriage. Meaning, until the divorce is finalized, you are responsible for the household's primary expenses. That sentence hit her like a meteor falling from orbit. Women have to support men? That's a law. He's the one who quit. He's the one lying around. He has 2 working hands and 2 working legs. Why should SHE pay? After a long, stunned silence, her voice came out shaking. Attorney Zhou, isn't there anything I can do? Doesn't the law protect vulnerable people? If he refuses to work and refuses to divorce, won't I just be dragged down forever? MS. When, strictly speaking, your husband is currently unemployed. That makes him the vulnerable party. You have a legal duty to support him. Zhou Zheng said this with a perfectly straight face, completely unbothered by the fact that Huilin looked like someone had fed her a bowl of sewage. Her brain flatlined. Complete system shut down. After a moment, when some light returned to her eyes, he continued. If you want to file for divorce, there are several things to understand. First, on a first filing, if the other party disagrees, the court almost always rules against divorce. You'd need to wait 6 months to file again. Second, even if divorce is granted, you'll likely owe half the X5 loan and half the class fees. Third, your in-law's debt doesn't concern you. But you mentioned the 2 apartments are his premarital property, meaning there are no joint assets to divide. Every sentence was a hammer blow. Stay married? She'd have to feed me, pay loans, and fund classes. Get divorced? She'd still owe half the debts and walk away with nothing. Forward was a pit. Backward was a pit. Both pits were bottomless. What do I do? Her voice cracked into a whimper. Zhou thought for a moment. Two options. First, negotiate a mutual divorce where he voluntarily takes on all the debts. Second, find evidence of marital misconduct, cheating, domestic violence, hiding assets. That would tilt the court in your favor. Cheating, violence, hidden assets, she mumbled, mentally scanning every memory of our marriage for anything that fit. She came up empty. In 7 years, I'd never done any of those things. Not once. Now what? She had nothing. No plan, no leverage, no clue what to do next. Zhou wrapped it up. Ms. 1, I think you should take some time to think things over. Feel free to come back if you have questions. She stood up like a zombie, walked out of the office, and stepped into the sunlight. The warmth on her skin was the first thing that reminded her she was still alive, because everything inside her felt frozen solid. Then a thought flickered through the static in her brain. Find his dirt. Yes, catch Chen Ang doing something wrong. He hasn't cheated before. Doesn't mean he won't. What man can resist forever? If she stopped sleeping with him, he'd eventually go looking elsewhere. And then, catch him in the act. And if he ever laid a hand on her? Domestic violence. Game over. She couldn't give up. If she did, she'd be dragged down for the rest of her life. Meanwhile, I was lying in the foot massage place, scrolling my phone without a care in the world. A WeChat notification popped up, a refund. My transfer to my little sister Chun, she had bounced back because she never accepted it within 24 hours. Didn't worry about it. She was studying at Harbin Institute of Technology, and since her junior year, she'd been basically unreachable. Probably doing classified research at some military base again. That's my sister, too busy with national defense to check WeChat. After a quick nap at the foot spa, I drove the X5 to the high-speed rail station to pick up Zhua. When two figures walked out of the arrival's exit, I broke into a genuine smile, the first real one in a long time. It wasn't just Zhua. Walking next to him was Tan Xiaolei, our neighbor from back home and one of my oldest childhood friends. Bro, Zhua's face cracked into a smile he hadn't worn in ages. Whatever happened at work today gone, erased by the sight of his big brother. Tan Xiaolei, on the other hand, skipped all emotional subtlety and smacked me on the shoulder like a bear greeting its cub. Bro, I missed you so damn much, I laughed. Let's go? Talk in the car. We walked out of the station and I clicked my key fob. A brand new black BMW X5 blinked its lights at us from the curb. Xiaolei froze. Did a half circle around the car like a dog examining a suspicious object. Whose car is this? Just bought it. You bought it. His eyes went dinner plate wide. Where the hell did you get money? Zhua was stunned too. Last month I was still driving that ancient Magotan held together by rust and prayers. Get in first. I smiled and climbed behind the wheel. The whole ride, Xiaolei kept hammering me with questions. I just said wait till we get there, you'll understand. The car pulled into the underground garage at Binqing Financial Center. These two looked at each other like I'd driven them to the moon. They followed me into the elevator, up to the 23rd floor, faces full of bewilderment. Shen Pianran's law office. Spotless as always. I pushed open the glass door, and there she was in the conference room, documents already laid out. Dark blue suit today, hair pinned up, clean forehead, perfect light makeup. Xiaolei was visibly stunned for a few seconds, then leaned into my ear. Xiaoang, since when do you eat this well? Get lost. I muttered the insult, then nodded at Shen Pianran. Attorney Shen, let's begin. I pulled Xiaolei to chairs on the side and sat us down like spectators at our own show. She glanced at me, nodded, and pushed the documents to the center of the table. Mr. Chen Zhua, please sit. There are several documents that need your signature. Zhua had no idea what this gorgeous woman was talking about. He looked at me with puppy dog confusion. I nodded. He sat down nervously. First document, legal representative transfer agreement for Hengxing Investment Management Company, Ltd. As of today, you are Hengxing's legal representative. Zhua's jaw disconnected from his face. Legal rep? Me? Correct. Second document. Another stack slid across the table. Upon completion of the acquisition of Yuda Supply Chain Management Company, you will serve as company supervisor, overseeing financial operations. Before Zhua could even process this, Xiaolei nearly dropped his water cup. YUDA? The company Zhua works at? He whipped his head between Zhua and me, face screaming, does not compute. Then he leaned over to me, teeth bared, eyes bulging, whispering like a maniac. You actually made it big? Bro, you promised me years ago you'd sell your ass to buy me a Range Rover. I chuckled. An old joke between brothers, but now it hit different. I whispered back, relax. Just for the fact that you've been slipping me cash when times were hard, I'm not going to make you sell your ass to fund my car purchases. Xiaolei grinned and shut up. At the desk, Zhua stared at the documents, fingers trembling. For years as a purchasing agent at Yuda's Jiangning branch. Just got fired today. And now his brother is telling him he bought the whole company. He couldn't make it compute. Our family situation, broke, in debt, struggling. How? Bro, where did you get the money? His voice was hoarse. I leaned back. Did some business. Made a sum. Don't worry about it. I wasn't hiding things because I didn't trust him. The number was just too insane to drop casually, and with 9 more batches still pending, it was too early. Zhuo went quiet for a while. Then he turned back to the desk, picked up the pen with a slightly shaking hand, and signed. His hand trembled the whole time, but his eyes were turning red. He understood why I was putting him in this position. We'd complained to each other enough during late-night phone calls. He knew I knew about his work troubles. He thought I'd bought Yuda for him. I could see him thinking about our father, about Dad's own siblings who'd turned on him, and then back at me, his brother who just bought him an entire company. Same blood, same parents, but what a difference family can be. Shinpian Ran collected the signed documents and stood. Yuda's acquisition should close this week. During Zhou Yuda's transition period before retirement, I recommend Mr. Chen Zhua be involved from start to finish. Done. I stood and looked at Zhua. Don't tell Mom and Dad yet. We're saving this as a surprise. He nodded hard, face finally showing real color. It clicked for him now, why I'd been so confident on the phone about clearing all the family debts. Xiaolei rubbed his hands together from the sidelines. Great. You two are done with your brotherly moment. What about me? You didn't drag me all the way here just to be the audience, right? I glanced at him. Your thing comes later. You two sit tight. I need to talk to Attorney Sean about some other business. Didn't wait for his reaction. Followed Shinpian Ran to the next office. Tomorrow I'll take Zhua through the remaining paperwork. Day after at the latest, the first batch of USD from the Zenhentai account will be transferred back to the mainland. Also, here's the contract for your long-term legal counsel retainer. She handed me a stack of papers, sitting down next to me with her coffee, those clear eyes studying my micro-expressions like I was a case study. I pretended not to notice her staring, read through the contract, and signed. I appreciate your hard work, Attorney Shun. Once the money lands, we close the Yuda acquisition and your fees get paid simultaneously. Hard work? Hardly. Her mouth curved. Her eyebrows followed. Full crescent moon smile. I should be thanking the boss for his generosity. I've always been generous with people who get things done. I sipped my tea. By the way, do you know anyone who specializes in divorce litigation? Her smile faded. She hesitated for a beat, then met my eyes. I do, actually. He's a bit particular. Let me check with him first, as long as he exists. Set up a meeting. Keep it confidential, no problem. She moved on. Oh, the branch president at China Merchants Bank in Binching called. Wants to meet Hengxing's owner. You going? Or should you handle it? I raised an eyebrow. Then nodded. I'll go. The 24.9 million US dollars from Zenhentai's round-trip investment had landed at CMB. That kind of money attracts eyeballs. With billions more coming, secrecy was priority one. I didn't trust Zhuo with this meeting. Not because he'd betray me, but because life had beaten the fight out of him these past few years. He wouldn't know how to handle bankers sniffing around. Shinpian Ran checked the time. We could head over now? Let's go. Better to make contact early. I stood up, walked out, tossed the BMW keys to Xiaolei, told them where to meet for dinner, and headed out with Shinpian Ran. Shinpian Ran's Lexus pulled out of the financial center garage and merged onto Riverside Road. Heater on, one hand on the wheel. She passed me her phone with the other. Lu Bingqing, head of corporate banking at China Merchants Bank, Binching branch. Just got promoted to branch president recently. What's his angle? I looked at the screen. Middle-aged guy in a dark blue suit posing under the CMB logo, smiling like he'd practiced in a mirror 40 times. She took the phone back and hit the turn signal. Hengxing's 24.9 million US dollars landed at CMB. He's been watching since day one. Year-end corporate deposit targets are tight. He needs big clients. We need bank cooperation. He needs US more than we need him. Not surprised. That much cash is like blood in shark water. I nodded slightly. Eager beaver. Eager is good. She glanced at me. If he's eager, terms are easier to negotiate. The second batch of Bitcoin lands next month. Round-trip investment requires foreign exchange registration, capital settlement, fund custody. All of it needs a domestic bank partner. CMB has existing cross-border settlement channels. Way faster than scrambling to find another bank from scratch. So he uses us to hit his targets. We use him to build our pipeline. Win-win. I leaned back and listened without responding. She waited a few seconds. You're worried about secrecy? Yep. Lu Bingcheng and I go back several years. He's solid. She said it straight. If I'm willing to make this introduction, I'm willing to vouch for him. Hengxing's compliance structure. I designed it personally. Fund sources are legitimate. Audit trail is crystal clear. Anyone who wants to investigate can dig all they want. Every cent checks out. She paused, turned to look at me, and smiled. What he cares about is our cash flow for the next 3 years, not how we made our first dollar. I smiled back. If this works out, you've got yourself another favor in the bank. Literally, more than that. Her mouth curled. Once we've got Lu's channel open, everything downstream gets smoother. He gets the credit on his scorecard, and we've got a banker who owes us for years to come. Sounds like you've already planned several moves ahead for me. Boss, I'm your long-term legal counsel now. Eyebrows raised, playful. It's in the contract. I turned back to the road, privately acknowledging I'd picked the right person. Outside, the French plane trees along Riverside Road had shed most of their leaves. Cold air squeezed through the cracked window. Autumn wasn't messing around. We walked into CMB and Lu Bingcheng was already waiting at the entrance like a golden retriever who heard the treat bag rustling. Handshake, small. Talk, seated. He got right to it. Year-end corporate deposit gap is huge. Wants Hengxing to park its operating account at CMB, keep settlements and cash flow running through them. In exchange, priority foreign exchange channels, expedited settlement approvals. I looked at Shinpian Ran. She gave a tiny nod. Deal. One condition. Hengxing's account information cannot be disclosed to any third party without Attorney Shin's written consent. No problem. Attorney Shin drafts the clause. I signed. Clean, no hesitation. The whole meeting took 15 minutes. Lu walked us to the elevator, then stood there smiling while we waited for it. We stepped in. He stayed outside, doing a slight bow. Mr. Chun, take care. I'll coordinate directly with Attorney Shin going forward. The doors closed. Now here's what I absolutely did not know was happening on the other side of those elevator doors. Around the corner, Huilin was walking down the hallway carrying paperwork, trailing behind the city investment company's CFO. Year-end loan extension meeting. The CFO dragged her along as decoration. She didn't want to be there, but the boss said go, so she went. The elevator dinged ahead of her. She looked up. A man in a dark gray cashmere coat stood sideways inside the elevator, leaning down to say something to the woman beside him. The doors were open for 3 seconds. That was enough. That profile, she'd recognize it if it was reduced to ashes. 7 years sharing a bed. Even half a shoulder glimpse from across a hallway was unmistakable. It was me. The doors closed. The hallway went empty. What is he doing at CMB? Director Lu. What a coincidence. Her CFO suddenly surged forward, enthusiastically shaking hands with the man who'd been standing outside the elevator. That's the branch president? Huilin's brain short-circuited. She'd clearly seen this man treating me like royalty. Bowing, smiling, waiting by the elevator like a chauffeur. Why? She mechanically followed the CFO toward the meeting room. 2 bank employees walked past her, voices dropped low, doing what bank employees do best, gossip. That guy who just came out of the VIP room. He's the boss of Hengxing Investments? So young. That's what low-key looks like. Came with Attorney Shun. Director Lu personally received him. I heard from the corporate counter. His company has over 20 million in cash just sitting in the account. Seriously? A company with 20 million in cash at year-end? There aren't many of those in all of Bincheng. Why do you think Director Lu was out there personally? Come on. Huilin's hand froze on the meeting room door handle. Hengxing Investments. Boss Chen. 20 million in cash. Something detonated inside her skull like a bomb. When Huilin, the CFO frowned. Why are you standing in the doorway? Go in, she snapped back. mumbled something, turned the handle, and let the CFO through first. She sat down, opened her notebook, spread it flat. She didn't hear a single word of the meeting. Her brain was running a single loop on repeat. 20 million. Attorney Shun. Boss Chen. Director Lu personally escorting him. He quit his job. He said he was borrowing from online lenders. He begged her for 3,000 yuan to pay for seafood. Last month, he was driving a dying Magotan in a bleached-out windbreaker. So where the hell did 20 million come from? She thought about my eyes these past few days. That calm, that steady gaze that looked at her like she was a circus act. She'd thought it was a man giving up on life. A broken jar smashing itself. Now she wasn't so sure anymore. She stared at her notebook and wrote down my name and 20 million. The characters came out crooked and shaky, every stroke trembling like her hand was in an earthquake. She didn't absorb one word from the entire meeting. Walking out of the bank, the CFO was on the phone ahead of her. She followed behind. Wind cut into her collar. She shivered, but her brain was on fire. 20 million in cash. She thought back to the day she put the divorce papers on the table. How I sat there in silence for 10 minutes, head down, before signing. She'd assumed that was surrender. Guilt. A man accepting his fate. Now she wondered, was I holding my head down because I was trying not to laugh? She thought about that seafood feast. Me on the couch scrolling my phone. Not even giving her a glance. That wasn't self-destruction. That was a man sitting on 20 million yuan, watching her perform like a trained monkey. So he'd been protecting himself from me this whole time. She dug her thumbnail into the web of her left hand until it hurt. The mix of rage and humiliation was almost unbearable. She had to find out where that money came from. Was he hiding marital assets? Her eyes went red. She told herself one more time. No matter what, she was getting half. Xiaolei drove the BMW out of the financial center, while Zhua sat in the passenger seat looking like someone had just told him the earth was flat and round at the same time. My brother used to be a rich kid too. He'd seen money before, but years of getting ground down had bent him into a different shape entirely. Now that it was all coming back, he was caught between terror, excitement, and a stubborn refusal to believe any of this was real. Xiaolei spotted the 1,000-yard stare and tossed him a cigarette at the red light. Zhua, snap out of it. Your brother said sit in that chair and do the job, so sit in the chair and do the job. And then you drag that branch manager of yours out by his collar and teach him some manners. He lit his own cigarette, blew out a cloud of smoke, and muttered, dog-eyed snob. Zhua took the cigarette, sniffed it, and let out a little laugh. Xiaolei Ji gets it. Some people really do need a lesson in how to treat humans. He flicked the lighter. Orange flame. Smoke rising. 2 tiny fires reflected in his eyes. Xiaolei glanced at him and grinned. He'd been around the hometown long enough to know Zhua had been eating dirt for years. He'd helped where he could, but there was only so much a friend could do. Right now, Zhua's brain was a revenge planning committee in full session. Tomorrow he'd be Yuda's supervisor. And the entire company belonged to his brother. Everyone who looked down on me. Get your knee pads ready. Xiaolei caught the murderous glint in Zhua's eyes a few times, but didn't say anything. Anyone in his shoes would need to let off steam. When you fall into the mud, the people who reach down to pull you out are rare. The people who stomp on you while you're down, they line up around the block. That's just human nature. They swung by to pick me up, and the X5 headed to Chelan Garden, a private restaurant. I'd invited Shen Ran to join us for dinner, but she declined. She knew it was a brothers' gathering, and a woman showing up would change the energy. That earned her another point in my book. This woman has impeccable instincts for boundaries. Around 5:30, we pulled up to Chelan Garden. The 3 of us barely reached the entrance when a Cadillac CT6 rolled in. Yu Liang, right on time. He ditched the police uniform for a dark gray cashmere sweater. The second he stepped out, Xiaolei grabbed him in a headlock. Liang, finally. If you didn't show up, this animal, he pointed at me, was going to stimulate me to death. Liang laughed and wriggled free. What did Ang do now? I just smiled, pulled out the 1916 cigarettes, and passed them around. Let's talk inside. Liang looked at Zhua. Little Zhua, how come you're here too? Zhua grinned and called him. Liang Ji said nothing was going on at home. Just came for a visit. He's 3 or 4 years younger than the rest of us. Been trailing behind calling us Ji since he could walk. For men, 1 private room, hot tea served, conversation flowing while we waited for food. Ang bought a BMW X5. You knew about that, right? Xiaolei poked at me again, updating Liang. Liang looked at me. I nodded. How's that other thing going? Liang meant the evidence gathering. He knew exactly why I bought the BMW. Still working on it. If you need help, say the word. I will. For guys together, the energy builds fast. Shua talked the least. Xiaolei talked enough for all of us combined. After the food and drinks arrived, Xiaolei was half a glass in before the floodgates opened. I'm telling you guys, I am done with blind dates. He slammed his glass on the table. Last month I talked to this girl. Played the simp for a whole month. Zero progress. Yesterday, I found out she was chatting with 3 other guys at the same time. All 3 of us laughed. Mine was a bitter laugh. I'd moved past my own situation, but hearing about romantic disasters still hit a nerve. Seeing us crack up, Xiaolei laughed too, then continued. So yesterday, I went on another one. She immediately wanted Western food. Fine, I said, let's go. She sat down and ordered over 1,000 yuan worth of stuff. He took another swig, wiped his mouth. Then I asked what her expectations were. You want to guess what she said? He held up 3 fingers for dramatic effect. Bride price, 388,000 yuan. That's when I realized the Western in Western food was actually Jiangxi Province Western. We all went silent for 1 full second. Then the room erupted. Xiaolei kept going, feeding off the laughter. Come on, have some sympathy. And I haven't even told you about the one before that. She scammed me out of 30,000. Said her family had an emergency. I gave it to her. Tried to get it back, and she blocked me. I had to show up at her actual house. I was laughing so hard my jaw ached. Whatever was weighing on me got launched into outer space. Liang and Zhuo were dying too, barely holding it together, fists hovering over the table ready to slam it. Xiaolei raised his glass, and we all drank with him. Then he set the glass down and delivered his grand summary, waving dismissively. You know what? Looking back on my dating journey, I have no enemies. They were all teachers. One lesson after another. They destroyed my innocence, murdered my naivety, and forged my spirit. No more blind dates. No more marriage. My only worry is that making 20-something thousand a month, I can't spend it all by myself. He burst out laughing at his own joke. The whole room felt like a comedy club. After a few more rounds, food mostly gone, Xiaolei got philosophical. Life should be enjoyed in the moment. Who knows what tomorrow brings? Liang put down his chopsticks and grinned. Just don't break any laws. Don't come crying to me for a rescue. Chief you. Am I that kind of person? Xiaolei looked deeply offended for about half a second. Then he leaned over to me and Zhuo, voice dropping to a whisper. KTV tonight. Commercial karaoke. Ang, you're arranging. I wasn't going to say no. Just some fun. Blow off steam. After shedding all my chains, life was about flow and ease. Liang saw Xiaolei's scheming face and knew exactly what he was planning. He shook his head with a smile and didn't try to stop it. Xiaolei jumped on that immediately. Chief you, go home and drink your tea. Your wife can't sleep without you. Then he winked at Zhuo like they were co-conspirators. He threw an arm around Zhuo's shoulders. Brother, we finally made it to the big city. How can we not go? Zhuo saw I wasn't objecting, and the light came back into his eyes. After dinner, we stepped out around 8. Liang's designated driver arrived first. We saw him off, then ours showed up. October night in Bincheng. Thick darkness overhead, city lights painting the roads bright. We headed to Junting Club. I'd texted Xiao Yu ahead of time to book a room. Her reply came lightning fast, absolutely thrilled, saying she couldn't wait for brother to grace them with his presence. Months and months of consistent check-in messages without me spending a cent there. Even a rock would warm up eventually. Junting Club, Bincheng New District. We pulled up, and there was Xiao Yu waiting at the door. Cold wind blowing, short skirt, bare legs gleaming in the neon light. Waving at me enthusiastically, her collagen-packed cheeks flushed pink from the cold. When we walked over, she hooked her arm through mine with a beaming smile and cooed. Brother, the emotional value delivery service was in full effect. I couldn't help but internally rage at myself. What the hell was wrong with me for the past 7 years? Was I possessed?